Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Ferguson City Council meeting for March the 22nd. We're going to proceed to our opening ceremony. The meeting is now called to order. Let us stand for a silent prayer. Next, for a pledge allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this time, Clerk Pittman, could you please call the roll?
Yes. Councilwoman Noah?
Here.
Councilwoman Griffin?
Here.
Councilwoman Burrow?
Here.
Councilwoman Robinette?
Here.
Councilwoman Lipka?
Here.
Councilwoman Nelson?
Here.
And Mayor
Here.
Jones?
Here. A quorum is present. At this time, we'll move to our public comments. We have asked you to place your senior public comments in on yesterday before 5 o'clock p.m. If not, if you have listed a comment in the chat box, we will call you from there. So Clerk Pittman, do we have any public comments from email? Then we'll move to the chat.
I did not receive any emails, Mayor, no.
Okay. Anyone in the chat?
I do, I have 4 in the chat. The first one is Ann Bell, Ms. Jenkins.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, Council. I come before you this evening trying very hard to be honest, transparent, and hopefully express that I am a concerned citizen of Ferguson. Being a concerned citizen of Ferguson, to me, means being involved, informed, and engaged. We live in a world at this time where we're almost becoming we live in a world where all must become truth speakers and justice seekers. Recently, we have had a citizens in this community to cause much diversity and conflict amongst us. They have been offensive and insulting to the very clear. They have been racist in their comments and expression. I realize some people who believe I have caused conflict and division. My response to that is, as many people that feel like I do, I speak because I am a concerned citizen. As our leaders, you should be an example and speak truth and make sure everyone in the community is treated fairly. I realize you can't control what people say or make them have good behavior towards others. However, what you can do as council members is promote respect, unity, and truth among us. I won't pretend that I'm not angry and disgusted with Nicholas Pascal's comment. Instead of addressing my comments about him, he chose to act like a bully, juvenile, delinquent by talking about me. Now he would not like it if I called him orangutan, but I am a child of God and he would not want me to stoop that low. So I won't do it. But I will say, you got the right woman on the wrong day. And when I say you must take lead in civil respect, unity in our community, we as citizens will be willing to listen and receive your advice. Councilwoman Phaedra Nelson, I will call and make an appointment with you to discuss the issues and concerns I have regarding our community. Thank you for your time. a concerned citizen, Ms. Annette Jenkins.
Thank you, Ms. Jenkins.
Next, we have Mildred Kleins.
Good evening. I'm Mildred Klein, 7444 Castro Drive, Ward 3. Tonight, I would like to thank all of the council members for the way you conducted yourselves at the last city council meeting 2 weeks ago. Although it was a lengthy meeting, I felt that you did respect one another. Although there were disagreements, there was no dissension. Much work was done that night, and as a resident, I'm glad that I tuned in. 2 weeks ago, I voiced my satisfaction about one of my council reps, Ms. Noah. Tonight, I want to tell the city council and the rest of Ferguson that Fran Griffin works hard for the people, especially the residents of Ward 3. I will say this, and many will agree with me. If you had a need and couldn't get help, then I know you did not contact Fran Griffin in Ward 3. Fran has done it all, from helping seniors get their grass cut, to getting food to those that were hungry and in need, to helping residents get COVID tested, to helping those whose apartments were condemned, to helping those who were in threat of eviction due to COVID issues, to passing legislation that positively impacts residents when in the past weren't even considered. I'm asking everyone that can vote in Ward 3, vote for Fran Griffin so that she can continue to help improve the lives of all the residents in Ward 3, especially the ones that for so long had no voice, but now are beginning to feel like they do and starting to see the changes that we've been waiting to see for a long time now. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Klein.
Next, we have Adrian Shropshire.
Good evening, council, and good evening, mayor.
Good evening.
And this is Adrian Shropshire, 709 Forest Avenue, Ward 1. I just want to let council know that I want to give you a big thank you too for having good unity and good working together. That was a great meeting. And I know I said I didn't like coming to the meetings, but I enjoyed that last meeting because it seemed like everybody was making progress and working together and getting issues that are on table taken care of. I noticed the 5G antenna is up. So maybe that starts getting us some more revenue in the city. I don't know when they're supposed to start paying, but I was in the meeting a couple of years ago when they brought it up. I have an urgent call for the council, city manager, and public works. I drove down Dade, Robert, and Carson. And Mayor, Robert is serious. I wouldn't want to take my $3 million fire truck because I feel it'll be a safety. It's getting into having a safety hazard. But seem like the inroads to the main thoroughfare to our safety road, they're great. You know, I don't understand that, how coming out of neighborhoods onto your emergency route can be better than the emergency route. I know it's in progress, but wow, it really needs to be addressed as soon as possible. I took a look at 909. Robert, wow, that needs some serious addressing too. I don't know how we expect the citizens to care if we're not caring just as much as they do. I know we're low on inspectors, and I'll hurry here. I would like for the council and the mayor and the city manager and public works to talk about a citizen task force for as in going around the city and taking notes on what they see. You know, we could have 5, 10 inspectors, but they still can't get it done. And maybe with a little extra input from somebody in each ward, we can do that. Retired citizens, we have quite a few. Give us the forms, we can fill them out, turn them in, take a picture, And maybe we could work on doing that.
30 seconds.
Okay. I just want to say thank you, council, and have a good evening.
Thank you, Adrian.
Okay, next we have Jerry Noel.
Madam Mayor and Council, good evening. Yeah, I'm Jerry Knoll, 1237 Deer Ridge Drive, Ward 2. And, you know, almost exactly 5 years ago, something significant happened. The Ferguson Civilian Review Board met for the very first time on March 20th, 2017. Now, when they met, the only thing they really had in place was the ordinance that the city council had passed that gave them a set of responsibilities. But then it was up to them really to feel their way forward to figure out how to fulfill those responsibilities. They had no policies, no procedures, nothing really in place to indicate how they were going to fulfill those responsibilities. They first started out by setting up their bylaws. And over the course of the last 5 years, they've, and I've been on it for the last few years, we've felt our way forward. And we feel like the Civilian Review Board is just now coming into its own and starting to fulfill the responsibilities the way it was always intended to. I say all that because we have 3 board positions that are coming open. One right now, 2 at the end of June, 2 members are going to roll off. Next year, 3 members will roll off. So over the course of the next slightly over a year, by June of 2023, 5 current members, original members, will be rolling off. And so a lot of experience is going to go with them. So it's very critical that we get new members on to fill in the board positions, and also to learn from the ones that have already done it. So out of all the residents that were originally appointed, only 1 has not fulfilled their full responsibilities of 2 terms. So anyway, so I wanted to encourage the council, also any residents that are listening, I wanted to encourage them, if they've ever thought they had an interest on being on the Civilian Review Board, now's the time to apply for a couple of reasons. One, to give the council a good base to choose from, and also once these 5 or 6 seats are filled, there's not going to be any openings for a few years. So if 2 years from now, if you decide, I think I'd really like to be on the Civilian Review Board, well, guess what? You're going to have to wait till that next group kind of terms out. So now's the time to apply.
30
Anyway,
seconds.
30 seconds?
Yes.
Okay, I'll end early. Thanks for listening to me.
No,
Take
no,
care.
no, Jerry. Jerry, could you let people know what the requirements are? Are there requirements or resident requirements? Like, do you have to be in a certain ward and that kind of thing?
Well, the openings that are coming up at the end of June are Ward 1 and Ward 3.
Okay,
So you have to be a Ward 1 resident or a Ward 3 resident. The other one that's open is an at-large, so it could be a resident of any ward for that particular position, or a business owner, teacher, minister, something like that. Next year, the 3 that'll be open, there'll be 1 in each ward, 1, 2, and 3.
thank you.
Okay, thanks very much for listening.
Okay, Mayor, I have one other that has added their name, and it's Nick Kassoff.
Good evening, Nick Kassoff, 125 Royal. I trust you guys can hear me okay.
Yes.
So I wasn't going to comment tonight, but I need to speak about the impropriety of using the public comment at an official meeting of the city for electioneering. I know the county, that the council is sensitive to this issue, and I hope that the members will speak out about it. And in all fairness, I haven't endorsed anybody in the 3rd Ward race, But I've got to say that there's two people that I really admire for their work in transforming the city of Ferguson over the 15 years that I've been here. The first is Joe Lanero, and now his son Mike as well. They really took downtown Ferguson from, what it was to what it's becoming. And since Joe is not doing quite as much as he used to do, Mike Palmer has really stepped up to the plate. And we've seen the transformation of downtown Ferguson from rundown old commercial buildings into beautiful lofts that would be the envy of any community. We've seen burned up, abandoned, falling down houses all over the third ward that Mike Palmer has taken and transformed into as good as new homes that are going to be lived in by people that are happy to be there. So, and when the playgrounds around the city were overgrown with weeds and all messed up, it was Mike Palmer that organized a bunch of people, and we got out there with shovels and piles of mulch and took care of those things. So, again, I feel funny about saying this here because this is the city council meeting and this is for city policy, not for campaigning. But when the campaign treasurer and largest financial donor to one of the candidates comes on here and makes a campaign speech, I just felt like, for the sake of balance, that ought to be answered with something talking about the other candidate in the race. So I hope that in the future, the city council will make clear that electioneering and public comments is really not a cool thing to do. And for tonight, that's all I've got to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kassoff. Clerk Pittman, you have two hands that are raised, one from a Erica Brooks and one from a State Representative Mike Person.
Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing me to have this moment. First, I want to send my condolences out to the late Cora Faith Walker. And then I want to just thank this community for allowing me to have this moment, to be able to be here. But second thing I want to address is the ARPA situation, because I still haven't gotten an answer as to when the deadline is, what issues will be put on the final itemized requests for the state or for the government, federal government or whatever, because I want to know what concerns, like I asked for the fourth straight week, what concerns have my city council, Tony Burrow and Heather Robinette, have put on the platform to speak up for our area, and also what general concerns that we put out as a community will be on that final list, or will previous project that the city have come up with be the main concerns that will be addressed with the ARPA funds. Second, I want to just really thank the city as well as Project Clear and MSD for coming here on South Dade and replacing the infrastructure in front of 212, 220, and 224. It started in December 6th, and then they replaced it, and now they're waiting for the ground to be able to settle in order to finish the project. But for the most part, that has been done, and I really appreciate it. And I also saw American Water out this past week replacing some lead piping. So like I said, addressing those situations is very important, and I just wanted to bring it out because we also bring out concerns. So I just want to bring out the progress that's happening with that. I wanted to also mention, I've been going to meetings, various meetings, and I've been to the Civilian Review Board meeting, as well as the Economic Development Sales Tax meeting. And I just would really like to know, what is the duty of the city council member when they're in a meeting? Because the Tony Burrow councilwoman has been very unprofessional. I'm gonna put it like that. Unprofessional when it comes to interjecting and
30
addressing.
seconds.
She's been very disrespectful to the chairperson, Melanie, with the Economic Development Project. I mean, Development Board. And so I would like to know her position, and I would think that as the city council member, you would want to respect the chairperson, who's the person that conducts the meeting. So please let me know, because I really respect the board. I watch it, but I would really like to know what that is, so that there will be a point of order at those meetings. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Brooks.
Okay, so then last, I guess there's Mike Person, Representative Mike Person.
State Representative Mike Person.
Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, great. So make sure I can hear you. Good evening, everyone. I'm glad I was able to make our Zoom meeting here. Most of the time, it seems like I'm in committee or at someone else's committee when I'm trying to do this. As you may all probably know, one of our colleagues, one of our public servants, Cora Faith Walker, just recently passed. And her being a colleague of mine and the mayor, we wanted to do something for her. Of course, the funeral was about exactly 1 week after untimely death. With it only being 1 week, there really wasn't a lot of time to get something for her together. We thought about proclamations or declarations or resolutions, but what we eventually settled for was a honor letter for Cora Faith Walker. That honor letter reads as such: State Representative Michael A. Person, District 74, honors Cora Faith Walker, whereas our hearts and prayers go out to Cora Faith Walker, her husband, Tim Walker, her parents, Mr. and Mrs. Edward Drew, and all of her family. Whereas she was a friend and mentor of mine, Cora Faith Walker would leave us so abruptly and so unprepared to process her loss. Whereas she was a champion for human rights, health, and the safety of children and families, which her awards and accomplishments on boards and organizations like Nurses for Newborns, JAMA Birth Village, Veterans Community Project, and Pro-Choice Missouri. I was fortunate to be supportive of and participate in. Whereas any questions about her state office of the 74th District that I now honorably hold, she answered in an informative and often an inspiring manner. Cora Faith Walker left the legislature to become the Director of Public Policy in the County Executive, Sam Page's cabinet of St. Louis County. Whereas Cora Faith Walker received a master's degree in public health from Washington University and a law degree from St. Louis University. Now, therefore, be it declared that I, Representative Michael A. Person of the 74th District, which was formerly held by Cora Faith Walker, and the Honorable Ella M. Jones, the mayor of the city of Ferguson, give honor, thanks, and love to our fellow public servant, whose deeds will endure even though she has left us too soon. Sincere prayers, Michael Person, State Representative, 74th District, Ella M. Jones, Mayor of the City of Ferguson. That's how that reads, and thank you for the time for citing that.
Thank you, State Representative Person. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Clerk Pittman, do we have anyone else?
No, I do not.
Okay, thus in the public comment session. At this time, we'll move to our manager's report. City Manager Eric Osterberg, we are ready for your report.
Yeah, good evening, Mayor and City Council, as well as our community. Tonight, first up, we have our COVID report from Fire Chief John Hampton.
Thank you, sir. Mayor, Council, always a pleasure to be here again in front of you on a Tuesday night. First off, we're going to start off with the COVID numbers in our area are continuing to drop. Currently in 63135, we have 16, and 63136, 16. And this is just reported numbers of new cases in the last 2 weeks. Missouri as a whole on a rolling 7-day number is staying steady around 272 to 260. But one thing we have to remember is COVID's not gone, and we have to remember this. So we still need to get our vaccinations, keep social distancing, washing our hands often, covering your mouth and nose if you're coughing or sneezing. There's no real change in quarantining or isolations. They're still the same as if you're exposed and you're not vaccinated. You're supposed to quarantine for 5 days and then get tested and watch yourself for symptoms for the next 5 days, with total 10 days. If you're vaccinated and or had COVID for the last 90 days, you do not need to quarantine, but you should watch for your signs and symptoms. Also, we should also stay home from work or stay in your house if you do feel sick. The CDC is tracking variants, but there is nothing out there like the Omicron or the Delta currently. There are studies that are now being conducted, and some of these studies are showing that there's a potential of diabetes showing up a year later in some of these COVID cases, and also to deal with mental health. Some of these are just now starting to kick off, but there is an actual thing called COVID-related psychosis. And it's going to deal with depression, anxiety, and hallucinations. I just started reading it not more than 2 days ago, but they're going into pretty in-depth studies on this. Also, our opioid usage is up during this time of COVID. So that's something also that we need to keep track of. But that's really my COVID update for the week. Mayor and Council, I'd be happy to answer any questions. Thank you, Mayor, Council.
Okay, City Manager, for your special presentation.
Yeah, so up first, we have a presentation from the NPSC regarding the conflict of interest policy.
Okay, good evening, everyone. This is Mildred Kleins again. So I'm trying to figure out how to do this. Octavia, I'm going to need you to, if you can, share the screen of the document that we sent in. Can you help us out with that? And also, Alan Miller, if you can give him the ability to kind of help me as well.
So I can do one or the other. Either I can share my screen, I can pull up the presentation that I believe I received.
Okay.
Or I can allow Alan Mueller to, if Alan Mueller is going to speak, then he can share his screen.
Okay, so no, I'm going to be the one that's speaking, and he's going to be, and helping to answer any questions that anyone has. So I guess.
Okay, so go ahead and get started, and then I'll pull that program up, that document up that I have.
Okay, so thank you. Good evening, Council. Again, my name is Mildred Kleins, and I'm thankful for the opportunity to speak or to report on behalf of the NPSC. And I'm just a speaker. I'm not no authority or anything. I was just asked to present to you all tonight. The NPSC means the Neighborhood Policing and Steering Committee. And it was formed from the consent decree between the city of Ferguson and the Department of Justice. The MPSC has a subcommittee called the Municipal Code and Ordinance Committee. And we've been reviewing codes and ordinances of the city for several months. We worked in 2019. We did some reviewing in 2020 and also this year in 2022. The suggestions first came out of the Municipal Code Committee, and they were moved out of the subcommittee into the general group where we reviewed and made suggestions. We worked on this document for many months, which included a diverse group of residents and community where we reached consensus. And by way of consensus, the MPSC will present to you tonight the suggestions to the conflict of interest ordinance. In the interest of transparency and for the sake of building trust between the elected officials, the city staff, and the residents of the community, we've made these suggestions. The words that are typed in black reflect the current ordinances, and the words that are typed in green reflect the suggested changes or additions. One ordinance in particular that comes before the council each year, is the conflict of interest ordinance. MPSC members have been working on this ordinance because we believe to build trust between the residents, the community, the elected official, and the city, there must be transparency, especially in financial reporting. To that end, we've been working to provide suggestions to this ordinance. We reached a consensus where everyone's voices was included, which is why it took so long. The MPSC humbly submits these proposed changes in hopes of achieving the desired result, which is transparency and trust building between the city of Ferguson and its residents and the rest of the community. So now I'll go to this document. And like I said, what's in black is what's already there, what's current. And then what's in green is what we have suggested, some changes or additions. So section 2-107, declaration of policy. The proper operation of government requires that public officials and employees of public entities be independent, impartial, and responsible to the people. That government decisions and policy be made in the proper channels of the governmental structure. That public office not be used for personal gain, and that the public have confidence in the integrity of its government. In recognition of these goals, there is hereby established this policy and a procedure for disclosure for certain officials and employees of private, financial, or other interests in matters affecting the city. And we're going to be pulling all this from all of these different ordinances that you see there. And you see the 2016 is the year 2016. And it has the ordinance number. The one behind it is August 30th of 2016. There's a new ordinance here, another one from 2018. And then there's one from July 24th of 2018. So we're going to go to section 2-108. Conflict of interest is the one that we're focusing on tonight. All elected and appointed officials as well as employees of the city shall comply with section 105.454. And that RSMO is revised statute of the state of Missouri. Regarding conflicts of interest as well as comply with other state law governing official conduct. Here's our first change. Any member of the city council, a candidate for elective office, the city manager, and director of finance, we added all that in there, who has a substantial or private interest in any measure, bill, or ordinance proposed or pending before the city council must disclose that interest to the city, and such disclosure shall be recorded in the appropriate journal of the city council. Substantial or private interest is defined as ownership by the individual, his or her spouse, parents, siblings, aunts or uncles, parents-in-laws, son-in-laws or daughter-in-laws, first cousins, or his or her dependent children, whether singularly or collectively, directly or indirectly within any calendar year of, number one, 10% or more of any business or entity. Number two, an interest or profit sharing arrangement as defined in the subparagraphs below, having a value of $10,000 or more, or the receipt of a salary, gratuity, or other compensation or remuneration of $5,000 or more. We took off the per year. From any individual, partnership, corporation, limited liability corporation, joint venture. Would you go up some, please? Okay. Lost my spot. Okay. Component, joint venture, organization, or association. And we took out within any calendar year. Number four, this is something we added. Component investments of mutual funds or similarly bundled investment instruments where the elected official or city employee has no control over the individual investment do not need to be individually disclosed. Any single gift to any member of the city council, candidate for elected office, city manager, and director of finance shall not be worth more than $5. Section 2-109, disclosure reports. Each elected official for elective office, the city manager, and the director of finance shall disclose the following information by May 1st, or the appropriate deadline as referenced in section 105-487 of the revised statute of the state of Missouri. If any such transaction occurs during the previous calendar year. For such person and all persons within the first or second degree of consanguinity or affinity or of such person, the date and the identities of the parties to each transaction known to the person, because people might say, well, I didn't know that was my cousin or whatever, but known to the person with a total value, and we're taking out with a total value in excess of $500. We're taking that out. If any that such person had with the city other than compensation received as an employee or payment of any tax, fee, or penalty due to the city, and other than transfers for no consideration to the city. Number two, the date and identities of the parties to each transaction known to the person, and we're crossing all that out. If any, that any business entity in which such a person had a substantial interest had with the city, other than payment of any tax, fee, or penalty due to the city, or transactions involving payment for providing utility service to the city, and other than transfers for no consideration to the city. And number B, the city manager and the director of finance also shall disclose the following information for the previous calendar year by filing an appropriate financial interest statement. Number one, the name and address of each employee, the name and address of each of the employers of such person from whom income of $1,000 or more was received during the year covered by the statement. In this next paragraph I'm going to read, most of this is what's already here, but there's a couple of changes. Number 2, the name and address of each sole proprietorship that he or she owns, the name and address and the general nature of the business conducted of each general partnership and joint venture in which he or she was a partner or participant. The name and address of each partner, co-participant, the name and address of each partner or co-participant for each partnership or joint venture, unless such names and addresses are filed by the partnership or joint venture with the Secretary of State. The name and address and general nature of the business conducted of any closely held corporation or limited partnership in which the person owned, and we took out 10% and we changed it to 1% or more of any class of the outstanding stock or limited partnership units. And the name of any publicly traded corporation or limited partnership that is listed on a regulated stock exchange or automated quotation system in which the person owned, we took out 2 and changed it to 1% or more of any class of outstanding stock, limited partnership units, or other equity interests. Number 3, the name and address of each corporation for which such person served the capacity of a director, officer, or receiver. Section 2-110, filing of reports. The financial interest statements require that this section shall be filed at the following times, but no person is required to file more than one financial interest statement in any calendar year. Every person required to file a financial interest statement, shall file the statement annually, no later than May 1st, and the statement shall cover the calendar year ending the immediately preceding December 31st, provided that any member of the City Council, and we put in here, must supplement the financial interests acquired after December 31st of the covered year until the date of filing of the financial statement. Each person appointed to office shall file the statement within 30 days of such appointment or employment covering the calendar year ending the previous December 31st. Candidates for elected office, if required to file a financial interest statement, shall file the statement no later than 14 days after the close of filing at which the candidate seeks nomination or election or nomination by caucus. The time period of this statement shall cover the 12 months prior to the closing date of filing for candidacy. The financial interest statement shall be filed with the city clerk and the Missouri Ethics Commission. The report shall be available for public inspection and copying during normal business hours. And this last part, all green, is what we have suggested to the council. Financial interest statements shall not be deemed as confidential, proprietary, or private information. Failure to file a financial interest statement in accordance with the limits provided in 2-108 and 2-110 in a timely manner shall be reason for removal from the ballot or fine as determined and enforced by the City Council per section 3-6 of the City Charter. Section 2-111, recusal. Any member of the City Council, city manager, and Director of Finance who has an interest in accordance with Section 2-107 through 2-110 in any measure, bill, order, or ordinance proposed or pending before the City Council per Section 2-108 shall recuse themselves from voting on any measure, bill, order, or ordinance in which they have a conflict of interest per Section 2-28 parentheses D. And that concludes our suggestion. We humbly submit this to the City Council and ask that you will review it. And just know that we worked a long, long time over the years on this, and we gave a lot of thought. And the reason we decided to propose these changes is because we do want to be able to have transparency at the utmost and to be able to build trust. We feel like no one has anything to hide and just be upfront with everyone. And so we submit this tonight, and thank you for giving us this opportunity and your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Klein. City Manager.
I guess, was there any questions from City Council? No? All right. Moving on. So the next item that we have on our special presentation agenda tonight is an update related to the partnership with St. Louis County. So before I launch into my presentation, I just kind of want to give some situational awareness and some history to the community. Following the tragic accident in December at Hereford and Elizabeth, I wrote to County Executive Sam Page requesting a meeting with him and his staff to see if we can't figure out something to do with Hereford and Chambers to make it a more safe road overall. A couple weeks back, staff had that meeting with county staff, transportation staff in particular, and at that meeting, they made a list of proposals to city staff for consideration by City Council about how we might be able to address the speeding and the accidents on Hereford and Chambers. So tonight I'm going to give that presentation from the county. The county will be here available to answer any questions that City Council has about the proposal. And then I'll also go over kind of the proposed steps that the county has for moving forward at the conclusion of my presentation. Without further ado, I'm going to share my presentation from the county. Can everybody see the PowerPoint?
Yes.
Yes.
Excellent. Okay, so this is a presentation that was given to city staff by the county. I'm going to go through and they'll just kind of talk about all of the different recommendations they're making for the road to deal with the traffic and the accidents that we're having there. Kind of going from the most basic option to what their preferred proposal is at the end. So number one recommendation from the county is something that, is obviously something that's already embraced by our community, which is increasing enforcement on our road for Hereford and Chambers. Obviously, when you enforce traffic, you see drivers, or you hope to see drivers conform to traffic laws and observe traffic laws and drive safer. So, the cost of that is, depending on what we can afford. And then that's something that we can immediately do now. What I'll mention is that Chief McCall has been starting to do traffic education details on the road, as well as when we have an officer posted at the Elizabeth and Hereford intersection in the evenings to try to deter people from speeding through that intersection as well. So the county kind of for each of these recommendation or proposals have kind of weighed out the pros and cons. I'm not going to read through all of these. I'll go through a few of them, and I will also make sure that this presentation is available to the public to access. So, pros, obviously reduction in traffic crashes, changes to driver behavior, heavier fines may deter violations. And then the cons to it is that there are other competing demands for law enforcement. The concern that we've had experienced historically here with the concern for racial profiling, and then the attending concern about the perception of it being a revenue generating strategy. Now kind of moving up the list, again, we're moving up through the county's proposals. The speed feedback signs, these run about 8 to 10 grand for the installation of 2 of them. The idea behind these is pretty simple. You've seen them, I'm sure, around the St. Louis metropolitan area. The idea is that it has the posted speed compared to what you're driving. So that communicates to the drivers very clearly and unequivocally that they are in fact speeding. What you see, however, and this is highlighted in the county's cons list, is that typically over time you see people realize that there's not necessarily a immediate consequence for not obeying the speed limit, even if you're going over it with the signs. So over time you might see it be a less effective measure being taken to address the root problem of speeding and the accidents and safety hazards that causes. Now, moving up the list, with the next kind of thing that the county is recommending is what is called spot lane reduction. So this is kind of a form of what is called a road diet, when you're intentionally making places along the travel as you're traveling down the road, where you're on a spot basis, you're reducing it to 1 lane. The idea being is that when you use these, what are called channelizers, to delineate where the road's going to be 1 lane or 2 lanes, you can do things, you could facilitate such things as protecting crosswalks and making drivers aware of upcoming crosswalks, or making drivers more aware of upcoming driveways. So the idea is by installing these channelizers, people who live on Chambers and Hereford would have a little bit of a buffer as they're backing out and have a little bit more confidence going out onto that busy road where we're seeing traffic, where we're seeing the speeding, where we're seeing those accidents. This is, as you kind of see as we're going forward, we're seeing a bit of an increase in cost. So something to note about this proposal is that instead of using concrete barriers, which oftentimes cause damage or life-threatening issues or injuries when they are collided into by a car, the county is proposing what are called flexible channelizers. These are these kind of cigarette-shaped traffic cones that are glued to the road with a strong adhesive. That is something that sticks up, and it has reflective lighting. So people, even during the night, even if there's not light out, as they're coming down the road with their lights, it will reflect and kind of draw their attention to the new configuration of the road. So spot lane reduction, pros, relatively inexpensive. You're just talking about cheap plastic, and it will not cause a great deal of damage to vehicles or public health necessarily. Cons is that it goes against driver expectation and increases crash risk as far as is pertaining to rear end collisions and side swipes. It's important to note here that when we're talking about side swipes and rear ends collisions increasing, we're also talking about at the same time more serious accidents that are of the nature of pedestrians being killed, or some of the things that we've seen in the past couple of weeks where there's cars that are overturning or skidding onto yards of people who live off of Chambers and Hereford. That would kind of be the trade-off here. Also, same with the traffic congestion. The idea behind traffic calming provisions or measures is that you intentionally are creating a bit of congestion to intentionally lower the speed and encourage drivers to be engaged with the changing configurations of the road. You're causing what is called psychological friction, which makes for more engaged drivers. Moving on, extended lane reduction. This would reduce Chambers to 1 lane in each direction between effectively what you're seeing here is between Walgreens on New Florissant and Griffith Elementary that ends at Forest Wood Drive. So the idea is, again, using those channelizers that we saw in the previous slides, these orange marks to delineate the street to make it 1 lane each way. Kind of again going up. You have a road diet with I mixed it up. Excuse me, I apologize, I mixed it up. What I'm talking about here is the delineator clusters with the, sorry, I messed up my presentation. The additional thing between the extended lane reduction, which is using delineators, and the next one, which is the TWTL two-way turn lanes, is that in addition to making the road 1 way each way with the channelizers, as we mentioned right here, these cigarette-shaped traffic cones, the additional thing that's being added on is you're adding a center lane that allows people to turn onto the side streets. I apologize for mixing that up. As you can see, though, what we're looking at when we're getting into this kind of tier of the proposals is the cost increases pretty substantially. So we're going from the 20,000 for the delineators to about 650,000 to 750,000 for the cost of doing a more permanent update to the street. So it's more permanent in nature. We're talking about resurfacing and restriping on top of the use of those delineators, those again, those channelizers, which are those orange traffic, cigarette shaped traffic cones. Here's another view from a side street view of what that might look like periodically to kind of, again, just key people into the fact that there's a one lane, the road's been reduced to one lane. Now, the final proposal and kind of the preferred proposal of the county is doing everything that we've seen before. So that's the reduction of the lane to one way each way, with the use of the channelizers, and in addition to the two-way turn lane, in addition to the restriping and resurfacing of the street. The last thing would be at the intersection of Chambers and Hereford would be a roundabout. So what's depicted here is a roundabout where there's one lane entering into the roundabout going either way. What's not depicted here is the center would be a concrete planter of some sort that would be raised and really draw people's attention to the fact that there's a planter in the center and that there's been a reorientation of the road. With this option, we're talking about bike lanes. We're talking about this new clean surface with a better ceiling than we've typically seen before. And what the county is asking from council initially, although I expect that council will discuss amongst themselves and make a decision about what their level of commitment they would want to be in this partnership. The county's initial ask is a 50% split county and city. That would be between $700,000 and $1.3 million for the total project, which would put us at about $350,000 to $400,000, all the way up to $550,000 to $600,000 if we're splitting it, or $750,000 rather, if we're splitting it two ways. So a couple more things to mention before I end my presentation and give the floor to council is the first thing is that what the county is recommending that we do in the immediate period is going back to the extended lane reduction is first that we use the channelizers to reduce Chambers to one lane either way between Forestwood and North Florissant. Again, that's between Griffith Elementary and Walgreens if you're thinking in the terms of landmarks. The information that we would gather from that pilot would be very useful in changing the scope and informing the road diet and roundabout combo, which is that final recommendation that the county's making. We might see, for example, it's a possibility that if we go ahead and implement the channelizers and we don't see an improvement in traffic calming, that we might need to consider other ways. The county is expecting, the county's kind of proposing that for the next year and a half to 2.5 years that we're doing the channelizers and collecting the data. And then at starting in 2024, we're looking forward to a partnership where we're changing the configuration of the road on a more permanent basis. The second thing that will change this proposal from the county is a series of public meetings. So what the county has proposed is that we, if the city is interested in embarking on this partnership with them, that at the front end there would be some meetings between the school district and our fire department that's already in the process of being scheduled to address their concerns as it pertains to the increase of traffic congestion and the configuration of the street, making sure that there is law enforcement present as the pilot level of the implementation of the channelizers are installed, that everybody's safe, especially the kids at the school. And as well as the just making the community aware that there's this configuration. But ahead of that installation, that they said that they would like to have this meeting with the school district heads, as well as the school district, the schools that are going to be impacted, rather, not the school district heads, and then our fire department chief. And then after that, as we're moving forward and observing the data from the pilot of the implementation of the channelizers, the county would like to then start a series of public meetings jointly held by the city in the county to get as much feedback as we possibly can about the county's proposal on the street, making sure and certain that we understand the perspective of our citizens and that we're not just implementing a traffic calming measure that is this extensive and this much of a significant increase or significant reconfiguration of the street without looping in our citizens and making their voices heard. So As a last note, what the county's kind of next steps for us as city council, if you are in support of this partnership, the next step would be entering into some sort of agreement with the county. I believe that would be a contract, although I'll look to Apollo for the precise details on that. But there would need to be an official action from council via ordinance to enter into that partnership and allocate that funding. My recommendation to city council would be that if we want to pursue this, however we want to pursue this, that we make some sort of multi-year disbursement or contribution from our budget as opposed to making it all at once, given just our current fiscal constraints. And with that, I will end my presentation and I'll leave the floor to council. If needed, I will put up my presentation from the county. And then as a final note before I shut up, the county is here. Joe from the county is here to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, City Manager. Who hand went up first?
Oh, ma'am, my name is Joe Kalesa. I'm with St. Louis County. I was just identifying myself.
Okay,
If
thank
you have any
you.
questions, I'm more than happy to answer them.
I think Linda was first.
Okay, Linda.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Mayor. So a couple of questions, some of these questions during the Traffic Commission I've already presented, but I do want to present again in public. The one question that I have is when we are looking at the delineator or the channelizers, we know it's a given that these things will be ran over. They will be broken at the base. It happens wherever you put them in any part of St. Louis County and city. My question is, how quickly will they get replaced so that we can continue to maintain the driver training that we're basically trying to do? And what is the cost of replacing them? Because if they're going to sit there broken for 4 months, they're not doing what they're intended to do. So who will replace them? Who will pay for them? And, where is that partnership going to be with the county? The other question I have is there negotiation possible on the cost of these things? I mean, for decades, this has been St. Louis County's roads. And now that we're finally got their ear, and no offense, sir, that's here for St. Louis County, but when you see people die on that road, you tend to get a little emotional about it. So when we finally get their attention because people are dying, why is it now that we have to pay half of this? We are one of the smallest communities in St. Louis County. This is their road. They should have been maintaining it, I think, quite honestly, much more aggressively and much more intentional for a much longer time than now. So that is a concern. I mean, is there a negotiation possible? Because I think there should be, personally. And then the other question I have is, a large majority of this cost, when we go into the resurfacing and the roundabout and that kind of thing, is the resurfacing. So again, why are we splitting it 50-50 when this is resurfacing and maintenance of their roads going through our town? Those are my questions. Thank you.
I'll go ahead and start and then let Joe answer the rest of the questions that aren't answered by me. So first up, I would say that the channelizers we discussed with the county, that's something that we would want to get up pretty fast. So the city would acquire those channelizers, which is $20K, and then the county would reimburse us for half of that. And then moving forward, is my understanding that might be a shared responsibility from the city and county, although I think that's something that the councils could certainly weigh in on. Second, the cost of the total project. It's my understanding that the county already had federal funds aligned up for this for these intersections across Hereford and Chambers. So this wouldn't be an additional cost to make the project more extensive. But then my advice to City Council is, obviously, if you feel that it's not an equitable ask, that maybe we make a proposal to the county about what we would be able as a city, or willing rather, to pay. Did that answer your questions, Counselor, before I give it to Joe?
I think, let me look at my questions real quick.
Oh, the last one was the resurfacing. Maybe we asked the county if that's something that we could pull back on potentially.
The one thing we still haven't discussed, or I haven't gotten an answer to, if we go, so there's excuse me, my words are getting stuck on my tongue. This proposal is in steps. So it's a building, we're building upon experience through each step of this process, this proposal. Again, the question is on the channelizers, the delineators, when they get broken, and maybe this is a question for county, if we're the ones buying them, are we also the ones installing them? Or will we have partnership with county to get those installed? And can we have a guarantee? Can we have a guarantee of how quickly they will get installed? Because as I said, if they sit there for 4 months not installed, they're not doing the job they're intended. And that's just an example of time.
Joe?
Okay, so I didn't know if Eric wanted to step in on that. Right now, the county would be looking for the city to install and maintain the channelizers. So the county as a whole is grossly understaffed and underfunded. We are short $50 million or so annually for treading water on maintenance of our system. I understand that there is more work that needs to be done in Ferguson. There is more work that needs to be done everywhere in St. Louis County. The conversations we've had with Eric to date, we're looking for solutions. We're looking for partnership. Eric had presented that the city could maintain those because I know that I don't have the forces to do it. So that would be part of that agreement. As far as I speak to the resurfacing, the road isn't in need of resurfacing. What we'd be doing is a ultra thin, it's an intermediate treatment to be able to give us a clean slate for the new striping plan. It's not necessary right now. So that's why we were looking for a cost share with the city because that road was resurfaced not that many years ago. So that's to give a little bit of perspective on that piece of maintenance. We're trying to create a blank slate so that we can get a clear striping pattern. When you go out and grind out stripes, you end up in a position where those old lines that were ground out in the rain or in inclement weather reflect through and people get confused on where the striping really is. So that's why that's important in that process.
I appreciate your answer and, and no disrespect, but quite honestly, when it comes to the use of your resources as the overall St. Louis County, North County is the stepchild. Ferguson is the stepchild. You guys, not you, let me rephrase what I'm thinking. Ferguson has been abandoned, especially since 2016. We have a consent decree that scares again, let me rephrase myself. We have a consent decree that scares off assistance from, long-term assistance. We do get immediate assistance, but long-term assistance, long-term employment from people who may leave St. Louis County. But quite honestly, when I hear that your resources are lacking, and then I drive through Wildwood, or I drive through Ladue, or I drive through the newest section of Chesterfield, I have a hard time with this. I have never seen those communities have a problem with getting assistance, but I have never seen our community have anything but problems to get assistance. So, I mean, I'm so appreciative that you're here right now. I am so appreciative that you've come to the table. I am so appreciative of Eric Osterberg for, getting this meeting with you and actually getting this conversation. So as I express to you my frustration, please also know that I'm willing to discuss, I'm willing to work with county, I'm willing to make progress in this aspect so that we can start saving lives in our community. But I also feel like we need to have the straight story. So that I would like to see a little bit more negotiation. When you talk about you had a project already planned for those areas with federal dollars, could you possibly expand on or expound on what's the cost difference? So what were you intending as county to do that you're now creating something different from?
Absolutely. And that's a great question. So the intersection of Hereford and Chambers, we have a federal project that was accepted for funding. We have just started the design on, and we were going to rebuild that as a standard intersection. Just replacing the signal, bringing it up to date. In taking a look at that, there's a very real ability to reconfigure that into a traffic roundabout at with the cost of what we were going to spend on the signal. What all we're talking about is the differential between the roundabout and what we were going to spend on the signal. That's the only piece we were looking at splitting. So we were still covering the full cost of what we had intended to do with the signal. And then for the whatever's additional, and we don't know yet, our engineer hasn't had a chance to actually design it. But in preliminary conversations, we know it's possible, and we know that there's a significant, savings involved with approaching it as part of that federal project.
Okay, thank you very much for your time. Mayor, I'm done.
Okay, thank you. Councilwoman Robinette.
Yes, so I have a question about the channelizers being installed. I don't think that there's a turn lane, and I'm curious as to how our emergency vehicles are expected to handle that, or, if it's down to one lane only and there's no turn lane, how does that impact our emergency vehicles?
Yes, with the 2-lane only configuration, traffic would need to find a place to pull off and make room for the emergency vehicles. Remember that those outside lanes are still there. They're just not through lanes anymore. So vehicles would have to find space, pull off to the side to let the emergency vehicles through. One of the downsides of slowing traffic is there will be some impact on emergency vehicles. The interim treatment, there's just not a way to get a third lane in that we were able to identify. That is potentially a more ideal solution, but even the center turn lane, there are potentially concerns about impatient drivers using that as a passing lane.
Oh,
And that's something that we were discussing with the city. We had shown Eric that we could put in delineators, the bollards in that turn lane so that you can't drive through it. But that would mean an emergency vehicle can't drive through it either. Again, that does provide space for vehicles to get out of the way of an emergency vehicle, but those are things that we can definitely discuss in the final plan, depending on what the overall concerns and desires of the community are.
Okay, I guess the question is, I know at the Traffic Commission meeting, the Traffic Commission was discussing the option or the ability for the public to weigh in and to ask questions. I'd like for our emergency staff to weigh in. And I think, Eric, you kind of alluded to that you'd want Chief Hampton and Chief McCall at the table talking about how they would get through or around. I want to make sure that we're not impeding progress or making it worse by trying to slow down, that we're not slowing down, our first responders.
Yeah, we are actively working towards scheduling a meeting between the chiefs and then the school heads.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Councilwoman Griffin.
Thank you, Mayor. I had a question about the speed feedback signs. At a cost of 10 grand, and I didn't get the schedule for that one, but that's basically the monitoring device. I mean, county at this point has already agreed to cover half of whatever it is that we decide to do. So I'm wondering why the cost of the monitoring device, because as far as the folks in Ferguson are concerned, we know it's definitely an issue. So if it's not a requirement of some sort, then why the speed, what does it say? Speed feedback signs.
Those are just one potential option that can be used to help control speed. They're useful in some applications. On this particular road, I would expect without some other significant changes in geometry that they would quickly lose their effectiveness. They're not required, and actually we weren't even really considering them for the final plans. They were just one of the low cost options that we identified when the city came to us and asked, what could we do? One of the popular things that some communities do are those speed feedback signs. So we were just presenting them as a potential option.
Okay, okay, understood. I just wanted to make sure. And then in regards to the 50% split, I definitely share my concerns about that as all. We only represent a percentage of overall St. Louis County, so the fact that we would have to cover 50% just doesn't seem like something that would be fair for our city. And maybe there's something, you know, staff can do in terms of negotiating. But in terms of the speed feedback signs, just my thoughts just upon listening to what its purposes was. I know generally like those are put out for the purposes of making people aware, but as you all said, as we mentioned, even during the presentation, like the downside of that would be folks would get used to seeing it out there and it wouldn't stop anything. And so I would think just us looking at, you know, what is actually effective to stop, that the speed feedback signs would be some costs that we could kind of save if they're not going to be effective long-term. But thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Griffin, Councilwoman Nelson, then Councilwoman Noor.
I just had a couple of questions. I wanted to know about the traffic calming and how is the overflow into the neighborhoods how is that gonna be affected? And then who will be responsible for the repair of the roundabouts if it's ever hit or
Yes,
something like that? And then
So
my
I'll
third, and
sorry.
hold on, Joe. My third question is, I know that the county, and I'm sure a lot of that 193,000 in ARPA funds have been depleted quite a bit, but is there any way any of that ARPA funds that the county is getting can be implemented into helping with some of the costs for this as well?
Okay, so we have been told that ARPA can't be spent on transportation.
Nothing to do with safety, huh?
I wish it were. Like I said, the instructions I've been given is that I can't use that funding for any of my roadway needs. I have many. So second, maintenance of the roundabout would be St. Louis County, 100% for the infrastructure. We would be looking at partnership if you were looking for a green plantable center of that. We'd be looking for the city to help, or a maintenance agreement really for the city to maintain vegetation that's fancier than grass. And then the first question is the most difficult. Predicting where people are going to go when we change their travel patterns, I can't give you an answer. That's part of what we would be looking at with the temporary is how does that change the traffic pattern. Traffic is very dynamic. It may increase traffic flow through neighborhoods. It may increase traffic on parallel routes. It may do none of that. That's unfortunately something that we really just can't predict in this instance.
Thank you, Joe.
Councilwoman Noor, then Councilwoman Burrow.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. So with the signage, so if you're at the light at Chambers Road and you want to make a left onto Elizabeth, or if you're at the light and you want to make a right onto Elizabeth, there are no signs there that state, you know, left only on arrow or no right on red. So is that signage going to be updated? Because, you know, signage is important. And I know I was trying to make a left onto Elizabeth from Chambers and the cars were coming and I'm like, I have the arrow, you know, but there's no sign there that says left only on arrow. So, and then the second question is, I guess for Eric, the traffic education detail, can you speak about that a little bit?
So
Joe, do you want to start?
yeah, I'll go ahead and start. The signal, the existing signal, like I said, we were looking at replacing it. And with that replacement would have come longer mast arms with flashing yellow arrows for the left turn to help indicate when's the appropriate time to turn. And at that location, there isn't a right turn on red restriction, which is why there's not a sign. Were you looking for something sooner with
Well-
the existing equipment, or of course, if we build the roundabout, then all of that becomes moot.
Well, I would hope into, we could get something. I mean, it's just a suggestion, that there should be a sign there, left only on Arrow, when you're making a left from Chambers onto Elizabeth. And then when you're making a right onto Elizabeth from Chambers, there should be a no red, no turn on red. I mean, just to help, prevent an accident. That's all.
I could refer that to my staff to take a look at. That's the best I can give at this time.
And then also there's no, there's also would not be a left turn at a roundabout as well. When you think about the roundabout.
Right, at the roundabout. Yeah, but I'm saying until we, until that's implemented.
And then
Okay.
to answer your question, Councilor Noah, the second question about the traffic education detail. So myself and Attorney Carey have met with the DOJ a couple of times when we, obviously in December following the accident, we wanted to increase traffic enforcement, but we wanted to be wary of, the precipitating event which got us into the consent decree, which was the charge that the city was using traffic enforcement as a way to generate revenue, which disproportionately impacted our Black residents and Black members of the St. Louis metropolitan area. So speaking with them, one of the things that we proposed to them and kind of talking about how we need to be responsive to our community needs, but also in observance with the consent decree, is doing a traffic education detail whereby, we're pulling over people who may be speeding over the speed limit, 5 or 10 miles per hour. And not driving recklessly and saying, hey, you're speeding on this road. It's important to our community that you watch what you're doing. And then we're just letting them go with that warning. And then while the officers are out there, if we're seeing reckless driving, they are pulling people over and writing them tickets. Chief McCall, did you want to add anything else to that explanation of the detail?
Okay, good evening, Mayor, Council, community, and basically with the educational thing, first off, it's like the city manager said, everybody that's being stopped is not being cited. Basically, it's to pass along information. I recall just hearing today in reference with some of the signage that's in place now. It's not really visible. It probably needs to be replaced and things of that sort. But we're using that as a form of community engagement, as well as education and informing people. I even made a traffic stop not too long ago and basically asked the person if they had saw no turn on red going on to her from Elizabeth. And sincerely, they were not aware because they never saw the sign. So the main purpose of it is not per se for revenue purposes, but it's for educational purposes. And at the same time, the people driving through are also getting an opportunity to have dialogue and conversation with the officers that serve the community as well.
Thank you, Chief.
Councilwoman Burrow.
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks so much for this conversation because it's really, really dear to my heart. And when you have people losing lives, we got to do something about it. City Manager Eric, I appreciate how you got out in front of this so early in your tenure here. And I thank the county for showing up as well. I do have a question about the longevity of this project. So no matter which one of these things we take as this is the gospel, this is the one we're going to do, how long? From the very short end of the story, and I know that this is nothing is in concrete, but I want to know best guess scenario? How long?
Before the, I'll use the roundabout option as the marker. The earliest we'll be able to start construction is 2024. And it could be started as late as spring of 25. That project likely be complete or largely complete by the end of 2025.
Okay. The city manager, what's your opinion?
Yeah, so my opinion is kind of twofold. So I do believe that we need, I think it's prudent that the county is proposing that we do a kind of a soft study where we're doing the channelizers at the front end, because really we do need to hear from our citizens, and we do need to understand what, when we're, maintaining these channelizers, what does the traffic patterns actually do? And I think that a year would be sufficient for that. Ideally we would see the construction start sooner, but it's my understanding that the county, and it seems part of it is the way that they appropriate funding for following through with federal grant projects and the timing related to that, and that kind of their historic budget process up to this point is what's kind of causing that date for them to need to be at the earliest doing 2024. It's similar. It would be similar to if in our capital improvement projects, our program, how we allocate funding for multiple years in advance, how we might say that, we're going to be working on such and such roads starting in 2024. So I think that's kind of been the holdup for the county.
Okay.
Yes, an important note is because of my funding and the timelines involved in the federal process, I need to commit the county definitively either to a roundabout or a signal in the very near future. So that's a decision. Unfortunately, if we decide to go roundabout, we are all in with a roundabout. There is no ability to backtrack and put back in a signal with the federal process that's involved with that project.
Okay, I get it. So, couple of things. Number one, in my mind, there is a left arrow only sign turning onto Elizabeth, and the law says you can turn right on red. So, am I right about that? Either one of you can answer.
Definitively right on red, yes. I don't remember if I saw a sign that said anything about the left turn being permissive. I apologize for that.
It's up there. Left
Okay.
only on left arrow from Chambers on to Elizabeth.
Okay, I thought I heard somebody say there was no left. Okay, so we got that straight. That is true. The other thing is, I just want to go back for a minute. And when we talk about reducing Chambers to one lane in each direction, because nothing definitive right now, right?
Correct. No final decision's been made on that.
Okay, so if we talk about reducing Chambers to one lane in each direction, then what I'm hearing, it's gonna create traffic backups. It's gonna cause issues during school stop-offs and drop-offs and divert traffic issue to adjacent streets in the neighborhood. Create frustrations and road rage, if you will, because we got that now while waiting in traffic, and we're gonna get more of it if it turns out that's what we do. So, okay, so that is all true. Am I right? If I've said something wrong, tell me, because this is what I'm going to be going by what I'm saying now. So roundabout or traffic circle, Joe, the motorists still speed around the circle, because I've seen that. Drive through the middle of the circle, or they get up in people's yards and all of that type of thing. And the motorists do not yield to others. It's like nobody knows who's on first and who's on third, who goes first. There's nobody standing there. There's not a little man with a little monkey suit on trying to be funny and telling everybody which way to go. So we're at the discretion of people who are killing people. That's my thing about that roundabout. We got folks killing people, the motorists, and so then we've got motorists that don't yield to children. This is a neighborhood. This is a community. People, this is a community that walks. You see some signs over here, Joe, that say we're a walking community. Nobody's walking anymore over there. You got a school, you got 2 schools over there. And I'm not trying to tear down what you're saying. Please don't get that. But I just want to make all the people that are on this phone call and that will be listening to this later understand that the council, we understand what's going on here. And it confuses some motorists. In elderly motorists, I'm 72 years old. Thank God I can still see and drive. But there's some that they're just praying when they get in the car, Lord, lead me, guide me. So we got motorists that really, in my opinion, probably shouldn't be driving. So we got to think about them when all of this new stuff come along, and other similar devices that I've seen have been unsuccessful. So in the meantime, we're talking about 4 years that it might take for us to get some relief from the fear of the citizens in this town about that area. And now it's not just that area, it's just happened that nobody has died yet in any other areas, but it's all over Ferguson. And I understand it's in every other community as well, but I'm going to talk about Ferguson. I'm thinking the first thing that we can do, especially on Chambers Road, is enforcement. That's the #1 deterrent. We got folks getting tickets left and right, and they go somewhere and they get a lawyer and they plead it down. And so they get out of it. They get out of going to jail. They get out of paying a humongous ticket or even getting their driver's license taken away from them. And they get to do it again and again and again. And sooner or later, it might be one of your family members that get run down or go get into a crash. And the worst case scenario, that they don't die and that they're being taken care of like mummies because they're in such terrible shape from an accident. This may sound like I'm going to the extreme, but this is extreme. And Joe, in your business, I know you see this a lot. Am I wrong about that?
So let me speak to a few of those points.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So I'll start with the roundabout. A roundabout, while it is entirely possible for bad behavior to happen at a roundabout, people going way too fast around it, cars launching through the middle of it. I mean, we've all seen those videos. Statistically, the roundabout has fewer points of conflict than a traditional intersection. And the accidents that typically happen at a roundabout, again, we're talking about statistics, nationwide where these have been installed. The accidents are typically statistically going to be less severe. There's still human drivers involved. We're still going to have crashes. That's an unfortunate reality. What we're trying to do is reduce the severity of those crashes is another way to look at this. It's much more difficult to come up and fly through that roundabout at a super high rate of speed unless, or you're going to hit the middle and your car is going to be very, very out of commission. But even that is better than hitting another car in that left turn, and making their left turn or something like that. What we've looked at as far as reducing the road from 4 lanes to 3 lanes in that ultimate configuration, we're hoping that gives the community that roadway more of a neighborhood feel. So people won't feel like it's an interstate. They won't feel like they should be going 50 miles an hour. That's the idea. And that's that long-term solution. In the short term, I agree. Going down to 2 lanes, it is not optimal. It is not ideal. It is going to frustrate some drivers who don't understand why their rush hour commute is longer. But the intent is honestly to increase congestion. It's to make it harder to drive fast.
And I would like to cut in and just kind of build off what Joe's saying, Councilor Burrow. So, the city of Ferguson, we're in this kind of butted by a bunch of suburbs. It's just suburb to suburb to suburb. So currently what's happening on Hereford and Chambers, alluding to what Joe's talking about, is we have people who want to shave time off their commute. So they're using our road instead of 270 to get home, because in some cases it might be 15 minutes, 20 minutes off of their commute. So by intentionally creating a bottleneck is a trade-off, right? So we're trading off high speed fatalities and the perception of safety and the real issues of safety, where people who are living on that street might feel afraid to even, walk down the street with, potentially some traffic, some honking, some rear end collisions. But overall, statistically, what we're seeing is we're seeing less severe accidents. And then as far as like when you're, just wanted to speak from what I know about the statistics when it comes to changing the configuration of the road. In the immediate period, what we'll actually likely see is an uptick in those non-lethal accidents of rear end collisions and side swipes. And then over time, we'll see those drop into like kind of a normal level of experiences of those accidents. And then at the beginning, we'll see significant congestion on Hereford and Chambers because the kind of the pattern of traffic in the metropolitan area will assume still for a while that they can cut through and shave time off. But over time, the drivers will kind of get wise and be like, oh, I'm not going to cut through Ferguson. That's gonna cost me 30 additional minutes. And what that causes is that it causes what Joe was saying, a more neighborhood feel to the street because we don't have people coming in and cutting through our community again to just shave that time off.
I love that. I love that idea. And I'm still stuck on time frame. And thank you so much, Eric, for bringing that up. Do we have something in mind like signal awareness? Signal ahead over in Calvin, you have the light flashing. Come on in here if you want to and do 20, 30, and you're going to get a ticket. Do you have something like that in mind to slow down rumble strips or improve the signal visibility, street lights, reflective black plates, or anything like that? Because those things in other areas are working. Adjust the signal timing or install that light that we're talking about, the electric eye. I mean, I know that sometimes people think, oh, they can't use cameras because that's against the law. Well, if you got a police car sitting there from time to time, and I've seen it because I've noticed them lately, and I've noticed people start to slow down just because they see the police car. And it was really funny. Last week, there was nobody in the police car. It was just sitting there, but it was slowing people down. And I'm like, yay, so, but I'm looking for something more permanent to creating the illusion of a narrowing lane. And because I'm thinking, Joe, that's what's going to have to happen when we go to 3 lanes. You got to have an illusion before you get to it. Like on bridges, you slow down. The bridge is no different, but because you got that bridge over you, you feel like if you got claustrophobia, that it's going to close in on you. So I'm grateful for what you guys are doing, Eric, and I just want those people that have lost folks in accident. I've been in a head-on collision. And so I know what that feels like and the horror of it. I praise God that I walked away from it. But the bottom line is, right now, this week, in the next month, what are we going to do about enforcement? And I believe that's the number one thing. If you're speeding, let me just say this. If you're a speedster and you're speeding, you are a criminal because you are breaking the law and you should be treated as such. And so if we giving these free tickets, and I mean a free pass, those are free tickets. Oh, well, get your lawyer, get it reduced, and then we'll see you next week because you'll be back at it again. So I'm looking for that kind of a solution until we can get to the road that Joe's talking about. Thank you so much. If you can answer that, what about that number one thing? And everybody knows that it works.
Yeah, so and kind of going down the list, the first thing I would say about enforcement is that we are doing those traffic details, and we're trying to be in compliance with the consent decree and then not do what we did in the past that got us in a lot of trouble. The second thing I would say is, as far as just the whole concept behind this traffic calming provision, Councilor Burrow, is the idea of creating psychological friction. So what people are going to see as they're pulling up is a bunch of orange channelizers, and that will alert them and make them alert and aware. Similar to how when you are driving through a construction site, you might not necessarily know that you're about to drive through a construction site, but you're seeing all of the color change and you're seeing the traffic slow down, and you just naturally slow down and obey the new configuration of the road. Point taken, though. I think something we can think about is trying to get maybe like an electronic billboard, like one of those kind of just like a construction site that we might make people aware that there's an upcoming changing of the road configuration. just so we're, responsive to, what you're bringing up, as well as, again, just highlighting that this is not going to be something that's done without public input. So we'll be getting the public input, and then also, giving city council updates about how we're changing the scope of, this traffic calming measure in response to, the public input that we're hearing about.
And that's true, city manager, because we don't want to send them to other communities, because that's just like they avoid 270 and come to us. That's what they'll do when we put up our barriers and send them down. They'll just cut through another street and moving the problem somewhere else. So it's got to be more thought out of just that one corridor that we're talking about. So
Well, you're seeing across the country that people are like suburbs that are the suburb. Like I see this in Denver, they're intentionally creating kind of lifting barriers for the intention of getting people away from cutting through their community. So, it's kind of a success. That's kind of what happens with traffic policy, is that you see more people adapting it. You're seeing, for example, more roundabouts being installed everywhere.
I appreciate you. Thank you for answering my questions. I look forward to these things happening in the very near future. And so if we would just start doing and listening to folks and figuring out what the right thing is to do and stop. I mean, we don't want to argue with county. Joe, I know you're probably glad to hear me say that. We don't want to argue with you. We want to listen to what we can do. And I like the fact that you did have a plan, even had a plan to get something done for us over here. So I appreciate the plan.
And ma'am, I appreciate your community. We've listened to Eric's given us great detail on the problems and what the desires are. And this is the first time the county has even considered something this dramatic. We are well aware of the problems along this corridor, and we want to help. So we are trying very hard, but this is kind of new territory for us as well as a DOT when we're looking at this interim type solution. So I'm going to say that we are very open to criticism and alternate ideas and refining this if that's the desire of the city council.
Okay, and Eric, my last thing to you is I heard you say something about the consent decree. And I, for one, am not in favor of the consent decree, and we have some things that go wrong with that decree. And I think this is something as a city, if it's causing us to have the problem that we're having now with people dying because we cannot cite criminals, then I think that what should happen is, I think we need to go back to the table and tell the judge and the DOJ that we got a problem that they can't solve with a piece of paper and some rules because we got people dying.
Yeah, understood. I just, I'm very cautious of the history of Ferguson, and I don't want to reintroduce the harm that the policy before posed to our Black residents.
I understand that, and I appreciate you being cognizant of that. However, I think this is something that is on us as a city to make it understood to those who had tied our hands behind our backs, saying that they're helping us. But in the long run, like right now, people thinking that they can come through our town the way they do, and there's nothing going to be done because we got a consent decree that protects criminals. Thank you so much, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilwoman Lipka.
Thank you, Mayor. Joe, I just have a couple questions. So we had our traffic commission meeting on the 15th, and after that commission meeting, one of our citizens who stays very active, Mr. Adrian Shropshire, sent me an email asking if we could possibly turn the light at Griffith into a flashing red 24/7. And then I just got a text message from another citizen, Mr. Palmer, asking the same exact question. So first of all, that's a question. I've also been asked if we could change the lights at Elizabeth and Hereford Chambers area to 24/7 flashing. That one I'm not sure I agree with whatsoever, because I'm concerned that at that point they're just not paying attention. But if what would be the possibility? Because these are things that could be immediately done to make a difference. what would be, first of all, let's go with the one question. I got 3 of them in a row. First, could we change the light at Griffith to a flashing red that is 24/7 like tomorrow?
Okay, so I don't have traffic numbers in front of me. So I can't speak to that directly, but I will speak in generalities. That is something to my knowledge, the county has not ever considered, just right off. But if we were to, my guess would be that during rush hour, 24/7 flash would create very, very significant backups.
Good.
Well, maybe a little too excessive. Without trying to model it, I can't say definitively. But that's something I'd have to have our traffic engineers look at. If we're backing up traffic all the way to the interstate, that creates a lot of other safety issues. But that's just one. Those are just moments during the day. We're talking about peak hour there. Off peak, it's something like I said, we've never done it. I'm not going to commit to it, but I can have staff take a look to see what that would mean.
Okay, so if you could do that, and when you do talk to staff, I mean, and I appreciate what you're saying, but a lot of times you say, you talk to somebody like you who says, I'll talk to staff, and then you talk to staff and staff says, yeah, no, not going to work. And then you have to come back and say, nope, they said, no, I don't want to hear that. What I want to hear is if staff says it doesn't work off the top of their head or off their norm chart, what they normally do, then let's go out of the box. Let's think differently, because something has to change. And if we went from a flashing red to, peak hours and nothing else, or non-peak hours, let's create something. Let's have an open mind and create something, because that would give us an immediate response to our issues. And that would allow us to start progressing into this new education to the drivers. Another question I have is the light at Hereford, again, kind of like, what kind of creative combination could we create there? Could we make the light a longer sitting period? Could we combine it with, could we make it a flashing at off-peak hours or after 9 o'clock? Or, what would be a combination that your traffic people could create that would wake up and make people pay attention at that light? Because right now, that light, people run right through it. We all do this who's sitting on this call. We literally sit at that intersection. When the light turns green and it's our time to go, everybody says a little prayer as they enter into the intersection. So I'd like to know if there's a possibility that we could create some kind of combination of a flashing, of a longer delayed green, red, yellow. And then again, at that intersection, I would also like to ask, what is the cost and how quickly could we get a red left arrow or a flashing, like those stop signs that have the lighted edges that flash? You know what I'm talking about, sir?
Yeah, I do. I'm trying to picture what that in context of a traffic signal. I don't know
Well,
that I've seen.
I don't know. I'm just saying, I know that we need something that can be seen at night. We need something that is immediate and is quick to read and is bold and enforceable. We need people to know that they can't turn left until they have the arrow, and they can't, that kind of thing. So we need.
So you're asking for enhanced signage of some sort is what your
correct.
request is.
Enhanced signage in combination with a new combination of lighting opportunities. So in regards to like a longer delay or that kind of thing. So those are the things, the flashing at Griffith, some kind of combination of flashing or delayed at the red, yellow, green at that intersection, as well as an addition to enhanced signage. Those 3 things alone, if we could do them within the next 6 weeks, would make a huge difference as we prepare to move to the next stages.
Understood. Like I said, I can say we will look at them. I'm not going to make any commitments at this meeting.
One other question I need to throw at you, and I'm going to be done. Somebody texted me, this question is a very good one. if we do the roundabout, what would it look like? What are we creating in terms of how are kids going to cross the street to get to BTC from the other side of Elizabeth? How's that going to work? How does that work with a roundabout?
See, Eric, do you have the picture by chance that you could put on the screen real quick?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, sir.
If I close the hold up, stand by.
And Joe, while he's doing that, I
Or
just want to let
actually,
you know
even a
that,
better idea. I see if I can pull an example up on Google Earth. Go on, I'm listening.
no, you're fine. I just want to let you know, I was doing the math, and we are looking at 2024. At the rate that we have people in deadly car accidents since the beginning of this year, 2022, we would be looking at another 15 to 20 lives by the time we start this project in 2024. So that's something that's scary.
All right, thank you, Eric. All right, so if you see the picture of the roundabout, oh,
sorry, there we go.
All right, so north, south, east, west. You see it looks like little arrows on each cardinal direction of that circle. Typically, the roundabout would have those would be raised islands with a pedestrian high visibility striped crosswalk through each of those. So it's a very short distance for the pedestrian to walk. Where they're crossing, there's only one lane of traffic that has very good visibility. Then they have a place to stop and have refuge before making the next movement, crossing the next piece of the roundabout. And again, they're only having to look for traffic coming from one direction. So that's typically how a crosswalk at a roundabout works. And the roundabout, the entry angle of the legs, it forces cars to slow down. That's why they're not lined so that it makes it for the shortest distance through. The roundabout approaches are aligned so that it forces cars to have to turn to make the movements and bring them into much slower speeds, which also makes those crossings much easier for the pedestrians.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, let me share something. Right now, there is a traffic counter on Chambers. When would you have that data?
I'm going to ask my operations manager if he knows. Charlie, he is also on the call here.
I would guess next week. That's what I'm guessing.
Okay, the data from the traffic flowing on Chambers, that should be ready sometime next week. And how long would it take to get the channelizers in? We are talking about something immediate. And how long would it take to get the channelizer in? And the cost says 50%. This is my opinion. It's a little bit too steep for the city of Ferguson. If we can negotiate the cost down more, will help the city.
I will have to talk to my management regarding the split. But as far as the timeline, Eric would be better to speak to that.
Yeah, so we staff, Don Boyce, who's not here today, Public Works Director Don Boyce, and Joe and his team are in discussions now about their sharing kind of the map of where the channelizers should go, and then the specs for the actual channelizers themselves, so we can procure them and get them out there as soon as possible. And I would guess that it's going to be like a 2 to 3 week timeline, Joe.
Yeah, we just finished the layout earlier today. Going to try to get a meeting set up for early next week to go over it. And I'm not sure however long it takes you guys to order them. And I don't know what the supply chain might look like for those either. So there are a few question marks, but potentially within 3 to 4 weeks, I would think your staff could be installing them.
Okay. And we can look forward to the data within the next week or so from the
Yes,
traffic
ma'am.
counter. Okay. Councilwoman Burrow, you had your hand up again.
Yes. I want to be clear about listening, Joe, and I understand about not committing to anything because right now, what I know about about the supply chain, it may be 2 months before you can get what you're looking for. And then you got folks holding your feet to the fire because you said tonight it'll be a week or two. I'm not trying to tell either one of you, Eric or you, Joe, how to do your job. I just would like for you to hear what the constituents are caring about. And so just to listen first. Don't be pressured by all these questions because this is what we need to do to get it. And I'm hoping that these questions are helping you and Charlie know what is important for us. But I don't want it to get misconstrued that we're trying to tell you how to do your job because I don't know how to do that. And no, I don't think anybody else on this call is capable of telling you how to do your job. But please do not slow down and listen, especially before buying any type of device. That's my advice to you. I hope you take that in stride. Nobody wants to see something happen quicker than me. I'm sure of it. But I'm concerned about when kids are at the school and the light is red. I'm not the only one concerned about this, I'm sure. People won't be paying attention when it is red for the crossing. So we got a lot of things to consider. And as you go through what you've heard tonight, some of the things that you're agreeing to might change. I see that already. So I just want to let you know, do not give off that you're going to have something done in a week or 3 weeks, because when you get to putting this together, things will change and then you got your foot to the fire. I would trust that you're going to do the best you can as quick as you can because you see what we're under. Is that fair?
That is more than fair, ma'am.
Thank you.
Back in your hands, City Manager.
Yeah, so Joe, question to you. When would you need to hear from City Council back with kind of a sense of what we can commit?
Again, with the federal project, that again, we were already under design. We're at the point of preliminary plans. We're having to take several steps back to redesign for the roundabout. So every day counts. That said, we will do the best we can when we get a final answer. I can't put out a hard deadline because honestly, the consultant we have has worked miracles for me before. So even if we had some delay, I'm not going to say that it couldn't be pulled off, but we're going to have a better result with the more time that we have to design.
Thank you for that, Joe. With that, that ends the special presentation on the St. Louis County street update. If council has no further comment.
Thank you. Thank you, Charles.
All right, so the next item on our special presentation list is a update from our Police Chief Frank McCall on ShotSpotter. Frank?
Once again, good evening, Mayor, Council, staff, community. Well, I want to give you an update as far as how things have been going for us with ShotSpotter, but prior to doing that, I just want to give you guys a brief history on the inception up to this point. Okay. I had done some research a while ago, I believe it was back in 2020, where we were dealing with prior to ShotSpotter, where we had the times when people would call it in when they were hearing shots fired. And in 2016, we had 598. 2017, it went up to 791. 2018 was 809, and 2019 was 893. And basically that pretty much heightened our awareness more so that although we are just getting calls, 911 calls, that our incidents of shots fired in our community were on the uptick. Basically 32, 2, and then 10.38 from 19 and compared to 18. Basically, the data analysis indicated that these types of crimes, some violent in nature, and has often been a result of existing conflicts and disputes between gangs or groups of individuals with a history of violent behavior, predominantly driven by disagreements or personal conflicts, which in some cases are inclusive of illegal drug activity. Regardless of causes, these are preventable acts of violence and detrimental to individuals, families, and our community. Researching and taking that information into focus, I did some research, and basically I want people to get a clear understanding of what ShotSpotter is basically, and also how it's helped us since we've been utilizing it. I did send the council a forwarded information on an analysis which was conducted by ShotSpotter. I think all of you should have received that, and I'll touch on that in a couple of minutes or so. But I want to go into the basis and as far as what ShotSpotter is. ShotSpotter is a gunshot detection technology that uses sophisticated acoustic sensors to detect, locate, and alert law enforcement agencies and security personnel about illegal gunfire incidents in real time. Digital alerts include a precise location on a map, latitude, longitude, with corresponding data as the address, number of rounds fired, type of gunfire, etc., delivered to any browser-enabled smartphone or mobile laptop device. Okay, this information is significant to better protecting officers by providing them with increased tactical awareness. We can better connect with our community, and it bolsters the mission to protect and serve. Basically, ShotSpotter enables us not only when there's an alert where it goes into our dispatch center, but it also, because we have our computers in our vehicles as well. So those officers on patrol also get that alert prior to it being dispatched. Okay. Back in 2020, you had 85 cities across the United States who was using ShotSpotter, and also a city in South Africa was using ShotSpotter. Since then, I'm sure the numbers have vastly improved. Basically, the way it works is that you have acoustic sensors that are strategically placed in an array of approximately 20 sensors per square mile. Right now, we have 2 square miles in the city of Ferguson. City of Ferguson is approximately, I believe, 6.2 or something like that. So say on average, a third of our community is covered by ShotSpotter. Okay. The things that, as I said, that it does and how it has helped us is basically, okay, thank you. The way that it's helped us is that we're getting more calls. I think I've said in a few other council meetings in reference to the difference in the calls for service as opposed, or the calls for ShotSpotter as opposed to the ShotSpotter alert. And for the time that we've been working with ShotSpotter, we've seen a drastic increase. And it's common that people are used to, if you're hearing shots, you tend to not call. You know, I mean, you're hearing a nice array, and it's something that I don't want to say the norm, but it's something that's been consistent. We've all, just like on New Year's Eve, you hear shots fired. A lot of people don't call the police because they figure it's the 31st, it's New Year's, so that's what's going to happen. But I will say, when it comes to ShotSpotter, that is what you're seeing now is the coverage in the city of Ferguson. The one good thing that ShotSpotter has helped us with as well is giving us a general idea, even with just this coverage area, where a lot of our rounds or shots are being fired. I think that's going to be on page. Let's see.
Chief, is it the heat map you're looking for?
Well, I was looking for the one before that. I'm sorry.
Okay, no worries. This one?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Now, if you see all of these red dots right there, those are that's gunfire, and that's in that 2 mile area. For the years, and as you see, between December 17th, when we first activated ShotSpotter, to January 31st, we've had 3,106 alerts. Total of 12,132 rounds have been fired within that general area. Okay, if you go to the next screen, sir. The thing I like about this is if you look at the brown area, I like the one right here off of Ferguson Drive. I know you can't see my finger pointing at it, but it's right off of Ferguson Drive behind the church. And if you look at that entire apartment complex is covered. Okay. If you look at the far your far left, that is where we border the city of Kinloch. Okay. In that portion of, at times we'll pick up calls that occurs, or the shots, we'll get notification of those shots that will pass on to St. Louis County. If you look to the far right, those are the former apartment complex known as Canfield, of North Winds and different things like that. We have a lot of our gunfire that are really going on within our apartment complexes. You have some spots in different neighborhoods and things of that sort. The one thing that ShotSpotter has done, which has helped me in the brief time that I've been chief, if you go to the next page, sir, page 8. ShotSpotter gives us a general idea. If you look at the addresses, they pretty much confirm what we just looked at. These are certain areas where we've had the locations with gunfire. Okay, so now we can identify specific addresses, okay, and then look into to see, because this also borders that if your address and you're shooting guns at your house all the time, then you're a nuisance to our community. So, or working together with other entities within the city, these are things that can be addressed and abated and through time with getting all these numbers and things together. ShotSpotter also gives us a general idea of our peak hours and peak days. You know, this is basically a safety issue, which has been very helpful for the officers in general and things of that stuff. Based on our ShotSpotter activations, with the evidence and things of that sort, because we're able to respond forthwith, we have been able to make numerous arrests in reference to that. Because the thing that happens a lot of times, ShotSpotter activates before 911 gets to us. Okay, ShotSpotter gives us a general area, it gives us an address, so we know just straight to that specific area where we need to go. So these are different things that we can put 2 and 2 together with the evidence gathered by ShotSpotter. Then also for when we do get the 911 calls, especially if we like unfortunately would have a victim. So only thing of it is the data from ShotSpotter could support the statement of our witnesses and or our victim, which pretty much helps us when it comes to conviction of these certain incidents within our community. The one thing I do want to stress on is this, is like I said before, the majority of incidents that we're dealing with are not random incidents here in the city of Ferguson. Now, we've had people that have been innocent victims in the wrong place at the wrong time, but we have the majority of these incidents are targeted individuals. So the thing that we have to do is identify these locations or where they're going to, abate these problems to give a person no other reason to come to our city, you know, and those are the things that we're striving to do with ShotSpotter. I will say that we've partnered with ShotSpotter in December 17th of 2020. In my opinion, they showed their commitment as far as partnering with us and working with us. And to this date, we have not received a single bill from ShotSpotter. You know, we're looking for efforts because we know we can't go forever like that, but we did meet with them, and now we're looking at other avenues of revenue streams so we can fund ShotSpotter within our city. Also looking at things where we can partner with other communities that border us that are interested in ShotSpotter as well, and hopefully through federal funding, you know, we can expand this to maybe even increase our 2 square miles into maybe more, at least half of our city if possible. But all of these are in the infancy stages. But to me, as a police officer, it's imperative because our response times are better when you get the address of exactly where they're going from. If you get multiple rounds being fired, you don't want your officers to go into anything blindly. You know, it's just the same type thing. You know, having the information firsthand. We'll have an incident where you have multiple rounds fired. You have officers setting up that perimeter, and they're going in together. to process scenes and things of that sort if that occurs, as opposed to going in there blind. We've had people that have called 911, and I'll be honest, that have, to draw the police in certain areas, but there's no shot spotter activation and it's within our covered area. So that lets us know, well, no, that didn't occur over there. So it's helpful. It's beneficial. We've been working with them. The city manager and I have met with them, and they're committed to serving the city of Ferguson, and I think that everyone is like, it's a win-win type situation. And I think with the data that they give us, and the point of it is that, like I said, when ShotSpotter goes off, I know before it's dispatched, and to me, especially if I'm in Ferguson, I can get there, or I can make sure my officers get there safely. Or the point that, like I said, if we do have a specific location where it tells us in most cases where the rounds are coming from, then we can set that up and get those individuals and take them to jail. And the fact of it is this, though, we have existing ordinances, like I said, when it comes to nuisances and things like that. So piggyback on all of those different things too. It is against the law to discharge a firearm in the city of Ferguson. So all we have to do is be able to identify the location, identify the subject, and although that's an ordinance violation, but it's also a nuisance violation. And depending on how that property is coded, additional action can be taken. So it just gives us more options and things of that sort. And I think to lose it at this point in time would really be, it would really hurt us as far as being on top of the game when it comes to responding properly and having effective investigations when it comes to this rare shots fired.
And City Council, I just wanted to add a comment related to the meetings that Chief and McCall and myself have recently had with ShotSpotter. What they've indicated is that for this fiscal year, they will not be charging us for the use of ShotSpotter. We should have had a contract extension this year, but communicating, the struggles financially that we have in pertaining to the pandemic, and then moving forward, what we're working on with them actively is putting in a congressional funding request through. They're gathering a number of cities across the country who are all requesting additional funding from Congress for the purpose of ShotSpotter. We're in a pretty good position where we might be able to have ShotSpotter funded from an external agency without having to go through a grant process. And then it would be additional funding over what we would already have for ShotSpotter, which would mean that we would be able to expand the system to new locations at no additional cost to the city if we are successful pursuing that funding.
Okay.
Are there any questions, anybody?
Councilwoman Robinette, and then Councilwoman Lipka.
Thank you, Chief McCall, for going through this. I guess my question is, first and foremost, has ShotSpotter been used to definitively either point to a crime, or do we have cases where it's not just where it's heard and triangulated, but it actually leads to evidence that has helped convict or help solve something?
Yes, ma'am. Primarily because once we get that general location, when we process that crime scene, we are directed to shell cases that we would know otherwise or know where they are, especially during times of darkness. Also, I will say on last year, we had a tragic incident where we had in one of the apartment complexes, we had a double homicide. And it was the apartments in that area were abandoned, so there were no 911 calls about that. The way that we found out about it was by way of ShotSpotter. By the time we got to the scene, we did find our victims, but we also, based on the evidence and different things like that, as I say, no witness and things like that, but we were still able to have enough evidence, and we identified the suspect who committed that crime. So
Okay.
it has helped us in that.
Okay, because I can imagine that, it does help, like when somebody goes out, that you have it registered that shots were fired. I mean, it can add to the intensity of the investigation there, or you at least know what you're walking into. I remember Chicago had a big study. They were trying to determine whether or not it was worth it. And I think from a safety perspective for the officers, that might make it worth it, but the actual percentage of what it uncovers or points to. I remember the first time we had the trial, there were a lot of ShotSpotter locations, and ShotSpotter, identified where it was, but almost nothing was of evidentiary value. I mean, I remember getting those reports, and ShotSpotter located it, but nothing was found. So I just want to make sure that we're using it to the best of its ability, that it is a benefit to the city, that it's not just a drain, especially after seeing, what Chicago walked through. And they said also that it changed the level of investigation once they knew that ShotSpotter was fired too, which I think, our police department is trained much differently. I don't think that would be necessarily an issue, but I'm just trying to justify the upcoming cost and weigh it against the actual value that it's providing, other than heat maps and potential locations where it's being fired.
Yes, and I think the thing of it is when we sit back and think about it, when ShotSpotter was just put in place, it's like, you're learning new things. So the officers, first off, you have to learn how to respond, because typically we weren't getting the notification so fast with a general area of where it was coming from. ShotSpotter tells you it's in the yard of this address and things of that sort. So it's just making that adjustment in reference to how to respond. And every officer that does respond has, direct assignments on things, what to do as far as, collecting evidence, things of that sort. Also, a homicide in 2021 on New Year's, responding, and we were able, because of ShotSpotter, we got the notification, and lives were saved as well because officers had the quick response on that one. So, gunfire is terrible. I think the problem is that we're running into, it's like the people that are doing it, from what we've seen, they're planning on doing whatever they're doing. And the problem is the innocent people who have nothing involved become victimized by it. So my point is, if we can continue to become more efficient and responding and solving these type incidents and using all the tools that we have at hand, and including laws that we have on the books, when it comes to it, and I'll say it again, when it comes to the nuisances and things of that sort, hopefully we'll be able to help eradicate a lot of this, things that we're dealing with.
Great, thank you.
Councilwoman Lipka?
Yes, Mayor, thank you. I will warn you, I have a dog in the background that's barking at something outside. So just to warn you guys. Chief McCall, just want to touch on, you said you were trying to negotiate with some bordering communities. Off the top of my head, I think we've got about 6 or 7 bordering communities. What can you expound on that a little bit more? How likely is that to happen? Are you finding good response? What's going on there?
Well, we have a lot of communities that definitely have interest. I'll give you an example. Prior to the North County Cooperative taking over Delwood, St. Louis County patrolled Delwood. They had ShotSpotter over there. So we were sharing information with St. Louis County, and also we were able to, they enabled us. So when their ShotSpotter went off in that general area, we would get a hit as well. I've talked to Berkeley. I've talked to the ones in the general area. And the thing of it is that, and I've also talked with ShotSpotter about this as well, and they're on board with like munis getting together and working together to do that. So it's something, like I say, of course it'll take work when you're dealing with other entities, but at the same time, it is doable.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Burrow.
Chief, this is not about shot stoppers, so should I wait till you finish your report?
No, I'm done.
Oh, okay. Main thing is, At our last council meeting, I asked you to give me a call back. I'm still waiting on that call. And the
Yes,
next,
I've been, yes,
I
ma'am.
get it. I get it. So
Oh,
I want to talk about body cam. And tonight, while we were on our call, the CRB was wanting to look at the Zoom call that we've been talking about for several weeks. And because the video was so choppy, they couldn't look at it. They couldn't see it. So we need another way. So if you could,
well, the issue with that incident, we were not there when it occurred. We were notified by St. Louis City and ShotSpotter of that incident. By the time we got there, the officers had already been shot. Okay. That officer's video that you're talking about, he maintained a perimeter right there. Okay. And then at times when they were looking
Chief,
for the stuff,
I think you got me wrong. All I'm telling you about is we were allowed to see that footage. And
yeah,
tonight, when we set it up for the CRB to see it, it could not be seen. They had to shut it down. That's all I'm telling you.
oh, okay.
I know everything that you're talking about. I've been privy to that information. So
Okay.
I'm just giving you and Eric at the same time some information that we tried to do this another way.
Yeah, so to the community, what Council Bro is referring to is that the CRB had made a request of myself, wrote a letter to me to be able to see body cam footage is their right per the consent decree and their responsibilities. But due to concerns about the pandemic and then people's availability, I opted to allow for to authorize the body cam footage to be shown over Zoom to try to accommodate people's A, pandemic concerns, and B, their availability. So it sounds like that footage was streamed and then came across a little choppy. So I'll make sure to reach out to the CRB tomorrow and follow up with them about maybe next steps.
Okay, I appreciate that. And another thing, the city manager, I have talked to you about this before. We might be needing to talk about redaction. And if this personal copies, investigations, whatever that is, if it's addresses or whatever it is, then maybe we can have that removed and we can do this outside the building. So let's talk about that tomorrow. The other thing, Chief, that I want to talk to you about is the status of the MOU. You know, that's one of my pet peeves. So you know where I am with that. What is the status of the MOU? And I was told by Bartman that, you know, we've been working on it for a year. They brought it to the council a year ago. And Bloom wanted us to sign off on it. And then I had some problems with it. And so we ended up, the council realizing that that was not something that should have even been brought to us. And so take it back. And so we have been working, and you know this, diligently for a year. And just when it's supposed to happen, and I understand the position, Bartman tells us that you need to look it over. Okay, no problem. Tell me what the status is of the MOU review.
Okay, well, I need to look it over. I have not reviewed that MOU.
Okay, so then the status is that it's in your court and you need to look it over. When can we expect for that? I know you got a lot going on, but as far as the CRB and the consent decree is concerned, this MOU is important. So I don't know if I need to, I don't know what needs to happen to make it one of your top priorities, because like I said, it was brought to us a year ago, ready to go.
Counselor, I would appreciate if you bring these concerns directly to me.
Okay.
Because I've not heard about this and I've not had a time to speak with Chief about this.
Okay, that'll be fine. And so I tell you what you can do. You can take this as a concern right now. You and I don't have to talk about it. I just want to know when is it going to be reviewed and can we move on? That's my question to you. I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. I'm done.
Okay.
Mayor, if I may,
Sorry.
I get information in 2021 in reference with the New Year's, we were able to respond there and render aid. Unfortunately, that person did succumb to their injuries. But I think the fact of it is that the effort was made, with ourselves and our fire department, as opposed, and that was based on a notification from ShotSpotter as opposed to the 911 call, which came sometime afterwards. So I just want to clear it up.
Mayor and Council, I also have to agree with Frank. We also get now earlier notification to start responding for injured people on potential shootings as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
City Manager, do you have anything else?
Nothing else to add.
Okay, the special presentation section is closed. We don't have a public hearing tonight. We move to our consent agenda. We don't have any city council meeting minutes, board or commission meeting minutes. We have several appointments for tonight. We have 2 people to be appointed to the Ferguson Neighborhood Improvement Program. We have David Keller and Pam Hartley for unexpired term to 2024.
Can I make a motion for that, Mayor?
Make a motion.
Yes, Mayor. Mayor Linda Lipka, Ward 1, I make a motion that we accept the approval of David Keller and Pam Hartley for FNIP.
Tony
Is there a
Barrow.
second?
Tony Barrow.
Any questions? Are you ready to vote? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Ayes have it. David Keller and Pam Hartley appointed to FNIP. The next appointment is for the North County Festival Square Community Improvement District. As you know, that Community Improvement District has 2 of our staff people. One is the city manager and the other one is the finance director. So we don't have a finance director at this time. So my suggestion as the mayor that we appoint Chris Crable for the unexpired term for 2024 and Elliot Leveson for the unexpired term for Lexi, where she was, for 2022. It's a mayoral appointment with approval by the council.
May I ask a question, Mayor?
Yes.
If we put Elliot in that position for now, but we do have a finance director coming on board soon, would it be something that we could then adjust and put the new finance director in there sooner than whatever date you mentioned?
Expired term is 2022, but as soon as we get the new finance director, we'll come back and appoint them at this time. Right now, they're getting ready to have a meeting and we don't have any representation. So we need to get 2 people appointed so they could go to the meeting. And as soon as the finance director get in place, we'll come back and appoint them.
So the 2 people are going to be Chris Crable and Elliot, but then you also mentioned the city manager. So is he automatically on there?
So there's a reason why I can't be on the board. It's because I've not been a resident of Missouri for a year. So the plan is that come October, I will have been here for a year. The term will be expired. And at that point, we'll remove Leibson and Crable from the position. And then in state, or the mayor will bring before you myself and then the finance director to be put on the board. I believe there's only 1 or 2 meetings between now and then. So the plan is that I will be in attendance to those meetings as the city manager and relaying, the city's position on those matters. So this is just to get the board to be able to have a quorum to at least meet about important items during the summer.
All right, thank you. Mayor, is Otis and Clark still part of this?
I don't have the listing.
Yes.
Let me see.
Thank you, Elliot.
Yes, okay.
Okay. Well, the reason I ask is because I know there's some properties that have been in question recently of whether Otis or Clark owns them or doesn't own them or who they sold them to. So I was just wondering how involved they still are. So it's good to know they're still involved.
Okay. Councilwoman Burrow, you have your hand up.
Yes, so I'm just wondering why we wouldn't make this an interim position for these two people, or why this wouldn't be a temporary position. Why are we putting them in the position when what we're talking about is that when installments are made for finance director and when Eric becomes available, I really don't see us putting them in these positions. It should be a temporary position. Maybe this should be a question for Apollo, but I think that would suffice if we did a temporary position. Your thoughts on that?
Councilwoman Borough, for the question over to our attorney, Apollo Carey.
Well, I mean, whether or not the position is temporary or, I mean, it's sort of a management decision. I mean, the way Eric is doing it now, I don't think there's, legal implications necessarily to the way he's doing it now. So, I mean, to me, it seems like it's just something that's, you guys have to figure out on a management level.
I think, in my opinion, Attorney Carey, if we have a temporary position, everybody understands what temporary means. We've had other situations that come up that we have to find out who's on first, who's on third, and the reason why. So if they're temporary, you don't have to go through that. I mean, when we've been through something one time, we shouldn't have to go through it again. And I think I'm sorry.
It may be clearer. It may be clearer your way. Councilwoman Borough. I'm just saying that from a legal perspective,
Right. Yeah, I wasn't thinking legal. I was thinking clear for clarity.
Yeah.
Clarity, for transparency. The better way would be temporary, Mayor, in my opinion. And then we don't have to go back and say who shot John.
Okay. I am appointing Chris Crable to fill the unexpired term of 2022, where the finance director was in on a temporary basis until we get the new finance director. And for Chris, he will fill in for where the city manager was, my mistake, temporary until our new city manager get his residency completed in October, and Elliot Lieberson temporary for Lexi Miller position, the unexpired term of 2022. Are you ready to make the motion and vote?
So moved.
Second, Heather Robinette.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. The next item on our agenda is requests. Clerk Pittman, do you have any requests at this time?
I do. I did receive a liquor license last week. They had gone through the process quite a bit, but it was not previously presented as I was out of the office last week, and I did not prepare this agenda. So this application is from Midwest Wine Bar. They are located at 252 South Florissant Road. I believe a representative is here. The application has been completed. It's gone through all the departments and received all of the approvals necessary. It does not require a special use permit. And they've also turned in all the required documentation. But again, I do believe either Bernicia White or Tina is here today if you all have any questions.
I'm Tina. I'm on the phone.
Okay.
Hi,
So if you all
everyone.
had any questions, they are, so that I can tell you, let me see, let's go back. They are applying for a license by the drink Monday through Sunday.
Okay, Ms. Tina, you have anything to share? Any questions, anything at this time?
I just wanted to introduce myself. We are four women owners for Midwest Wine Bar. We initially took the lease on last year in February. It's been a long time coming due to COVID. Our contractors got sick, and then us with the very unknown of a lot of information that we didn't know that we needed, such as all these different liquor license and things in that sort. I just thought we just needed Missouri. We got the state of Missouri last year in July per se. There was some roller coasters with the inspections and a lot of balls was dropped and overall, but through it all, Miss Shirley definitely helped us out and we got to this point. So we are a wine bar. We are here to introduce a new location to Ferguson where we introduce different types of wine. We will have spirits, we will have beer, but we will be more focused on the wine. We will have Missouri wines such as Grafton wines and a lot of other local wineries that's in Missouri. We will be bringing just a friendly environment. It would not be we won't have any like riff raff with like rap music and things like that. It will be an atmosphere where people can come after work for happy hour, listen to some jazz, listen to some neo soul. It will be networking going on. We plan on giving back to the city of Ferguson as well, to have events for that as well. So that's pretty much our mission and what we are planning on doing with Midwest Wine Bar.
Thank you, Ms. McCone. Councilwoman Burrow, you have your hand up, and Councilwoman Licker.
I'm sorry, Mayor, that was not intentional. Thank you for letting me know.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
My turn, Mayor?
Yes, your hand is up.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to let those who are listening know that, so as a DJ, I have worked very closely with the Missouri Wine Association, and I've actually had the honor of providing music at many of their occasions. And I just want the community to know that the Wine Association is a very big community, and they're a very tight community, and they have a wide variety of people who patronize all these different places, and they have wine tours and they have all kinds of things. So this particular business coming into Ferguson and maintaining what Tina is saying she's going to maintain is going to bring a lot of new people into Ferguson who want to experience this. So I just want to welcome her and thank her for doing this and let people know that this is going to be something that should be quite interesting and bring a lot of new people into our community that get to experience Ferguson.
Thank you. At this time, I'll entertain a motion and a second for the liquor license approval of Midwest Bar.
So moved, Mayor. Linda Lipko, Ward 1.
Second, Phaedra Nelson.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it. Welcome, Ms. Tina, and you have your liquor license for Midwest Wine Bar. At this time, we'll move to our resolutions. We have resolution number 2022-12. Without objections, we're introduced by council members present. Hear none. Attorney Carey, could you please read the resolution?
Yes, ma'am. Resolution number 2022-12. A resolution to revoke the business license of Cousins Mini Market.
City Manager.
Yeah, so City Council, at the last council meeting, we had discussed that the process was that I needed to make a recommendation to City Council about whether or not the license should be suspended or revoked. Before you tonight is a recommendation from staff in the form of a resolution to move forward with revoking the business license. One of the things that you had asked of staff is to provide an update and only move forward with this item if in fact that Cousins Mini Market, that the court case came out that they were guilty of the nuisance, and that in fact was the case. Jean Diaz, would you expand on that?
I'm sorry, City Manager, I was on the phone. Can you repeat that for me, please?
Yes, I was asking you to expand on the nuisance hearing at Muni Court for Cousins.
Oh, yes, thank you. Good evening, City Council, Mayor, and everyone attending. Last week, there was a hearing with the Cousins Market. I had summoned them a couple of weeks or about a month ago, and I cited them for maintaining a public nuisance. At the time of the hearing, they pleaded guilty to maintaining a public nuisance, and it was noted as such. Thank you.
Thank you, Gene. That ends staff's comments on this item.
Okay. I'm asking for a motion and a second for, okay, Linda, your hand is up, Councilwoman. Councilwoman Lipka?
I'm so sorry. I thought I was off of mute. Does this mean they cannot do business at all? Or does this mean they can't do a certain type of business?
This means they cannot do business at all and that they would need to shut down.
So we're closing the doors.
Correct.
Okay, that's all I wanted to know. Thank you.
Any other council member? At this time, I'm requesting a motion and a second for approval.
So moved, Heather Robinette.
Second, Guido Noah.
Clerk Pittman, could you please call the roll?
Councilwoman Noah,
Aye.
Councilwoman Griffin, Councilwoman Griffin, give me 1 second. Let me make sure that, oh, she's there. I'll come back to her. Councilwoman Griffin is still present. Councilwoman Burrow,
Aye.
can you repeat that, Councilwoman Burrow?
Aye.
Councilwoman Robinette,
Aye.
Mayor Jones,
Aye.
Councilwoman Lipka,
Aye.
Councilwoman Nelson,
Aye.
again, Councilwoman Griffin. Councilwoman Griffin. Okay, I do not have a vote recorded for Councilwoman Griffin.
Okay.
So I have her as absent because she's not answering and I don't see her picture. Perhaps she walked away.
Okay, resolution number 2022-12 passes. Resolution number 2022-13, without objections, were introduced by council members present. Hear none. Attorney Carey, could you please read the resolution?
Yes, ma'am. Resolution number 2022-13, a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with OpenGov for code enforcement and permitting services.
City manager?
Yeah, so this is just a follow-up from the presentation earlier. Eric from OpenGov is still on the line if you all have any remaining questions.
Hear none. At this time, I request a motion and a second for approval.
So moved, Mayor Linda Lipka.
Second,
Guido
Heather
Noah,
Robinette.
second.
Clerk Pittman, could you please call the roll?
Councilwoman Noah,
Aye.
Councilwoman Griffin, Councilwoman Griffin, Councilwoman Burrow,
Aye.
Councilwoman Robinette,
Aye.
Mayor Jones,
Aye.
Councilwoman Lipka,
Aye.
Councilwoman Nelson,
Aye.
Councilwoman Griffin, okay, again, I have her as absent.
Resolution number 2022-13 passes. We don't have any bills requiring first reading. We have bills requiring second reading. Bill number 7222. I am requesting a motion and a second to read the bill a second time and place upon its passage.
So moved, Mayor. Linda Lipka.
Naquita, no, a second.
Attorney Carey, could you please read the bill?
Yes, ma'am. Bill number 7222. An ordinance amending chapter 47 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Ferguson and by a new Article 3 as it relates to mobile food vendors, providing for the effective date of this ordinance, providing for the current maintenance of this code, and providing for repeal of all conflicting ordinances.
City Manager, do you have anything to add?
I do not.
Council, do you have any additional questions? Hear none. Clerk Pittman, could you please call the roll?
Councilwoman Griffin? Councilwoman Griffin?
Is she sick?
Councilwoman, I'm not sure.
I did call her and she didn't answer.
And I just tried texting her as well, so that you guys know. Councilwoman Burrow?
Aye.
Councilwoman Robinette?
Aye.
Mayor Jones?
Aye.
Councilwoman Lipka?
Aye.
Councilwoman Nelson?
Aye.
Councilwoman Noah?
Aye.
And again, Councilwoman Griffin. Okay.
Bill number 7222 passes. Bill number 7223. I'm requesting a motion and a second to read the bill a second time and place upon its passage.
So moved, Mayor. Linda Lipka.
Second,
Second, Phaedra Nelson.
Attorney Carey, could you please read the bill?
Yes, ma'am. Bill number 7223. An ordinance of the City of Ferguson, Missouri, authorizing the mayor to enter into and execute a mutual aid box alarm system agreement.
City Manager?
I'm going to give the floor to Chief Hampton on this one.
Mayor, Council, again, pleasure. This is just a mutual aid agreement with Illinois. Nothing's changed since last meeting.
City Council, do you have any additional questions? Hear none. Clerk Pittman, could you please call the roll?
Councilwoman Burrow?
Aye.
Councilwoman Robinette?
Aye.
Mayor Jones?
Aye.
Councilwoman Lipka?
Aye.
Councilwoman Nelson?
Aye.
Councilwoman Noah?
Aye.
Councilwoman Griffin?
Bill number 7223 passes. Bill number 7224. I'm requesting a motion and a second to read the bill a second time and place upon its passage.
So move, Naquita Noah.
Second, Linda Lipka.
Attorney Carey, could you please read the bill?
Yes, ma'am. Bill number 7224. An ordinance authorizing the mayor of the City of Ferguson, Missouri to execute the deed and acknowledge other documents in order for the real properties to be transferred to the city for city development and or beautification.
City Manager?
Yes, we have Bailey Mitchell here to just go over that one last time.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. All I have to add is just these properties are all of the available post-third properties that we are considering for demolition. We have narrowed down the list quite a bit since, but as of now, this is just to give us the ability to apply for them through the county post-third process. So basically, we're not moving forward with all of them, but this will allow us to move forward with the ones that we need to on a timely manner to get them demolished within this fiscal year. So that's all.
City Council members, do you have any questions? Hear none. Clerk Pittman, could you please call the roll?
Councilwoman Robinette?
Aye.
Mayor Jones,
Aye.
Councilwoman Lipka,
Aye.
Councilwoman Nelson,
Aye.
Councilwoman Noah,
Aye.
Councilwoman Griffin, Councilwoman Burrow,
Aye.
Bill number 7224 passage. I request Bill number 7225. I'm requesting a motion and a second to read the bill a second time and place upon its passage.
So move, Naquita Noah.
Okay, guys, I'll do it. Second, Linda Lipka. Come on, folks, speak up.
Attorney Carey, could you please read the bill?
Yes, ma'am. Bill number 7225, an ordinance authorizing the execution of a redevelopment agreement with LMAC Holdings LLC for the purpose of redevelopment of 10607 New Halls Ferry Road to be used as affordable senior housing units in the city of Ferguson.
City manager,
No further comments to add.
city council, do you have any questions? Hear none. Clerk Pittman, could you please call the roll?
I'm sorry, I was doing two things at one time. Sorry about that. Yes, Mayor Jones,
Aye.
Councilwoman Lipka,
Aye.
Councilwoman Nelson,
Aye.
Councilwoman Noah,
Aye.
Councilwoman Griffin, Councilwoman Burrow.
Nay.
Can you repeat that, Councilwoman Burrow?
Nay.
Councilwoman Robinette,
Aye.
Bill number 7225 passes. The next item, unfinished business. Do we have any unfinished business? Hear none. Do we have any new business?
If I may, Mayor.
Yes.
Good evening, City Council. I just want to say thank you so much for supporting staff tonight with some of the decisions we made, specifically with OpenGov. I really do believe that's going to increase our efficiencies and our responsiveness to our community. And I just want to, again, say thank you so much for your support on that.
Thank you. Any other new business? At the time, we'll move to miscellaneous. We'll start with Councilwoman Noah.
Okay, first I would like to welcome Midwest Wine Bar to Ferguson. Thank you. And I would like to send a congratulations to Clerk Octavia Pittman. She's this year's president of the Missouri City Clerks and Finance Officers Association. So congratulations to her. Congratulations to our Ferguson Recreation Superintendent, Joseph Seastrom. He is the Missouri Parks and Recreation years 2022 and 2023 Region 4 Director. I got to visit the new business Soul Craft located in Ward 3 Ferguson and 433 South Florissant this past weekend. So congratulations to Soul Craft. Also, we have been going door to door, dropping boards and commissions, literature, well, not literature, but the outreach flyer, trying to get people on the boards and commissions. So again, we're trying to fill the boards and commissions. I would like to welcome Justin Turley to Ferguson, and thank you to all of the employees, new and seasoned, for your commitment to Ferguson. And lastly, we had the North Hills meeting, a meeting that has been long coming. And so thank you to all of those who attended. I'd like to thank St. Peter's Church for helping us, drop that literature so that we could have the meeting, so we could outreach to the residents in North Hill. The topic continues to come up regarding traffic calming and speed bumps. So just for clarity, Chief Hampton, if you're on the line, or City Manager, the citizens just want to know why we cannot have speed bumps on Ferguson residential streets. And I explained that it's been explained to me that it prohibits our emergency vehicles from getting to an emergency in a timely and efficient manner. I just wanted to know if that's correct.
So there's no prohibition. It's just that we would need to make sure that they're not wider than the emergency vehicles. Chief Hampton?
Yes, actually, having speed bumps would wreck our trucks and really our suspension on our trucks. What we prefer is speed humps, which costs a little bit more money than speed bumps. If you go in the city of Jennings, they put in all the speed bumps and it really does slow down the emergency traffic and it really does hurt the trucks. But that's why we're suggesting per NFPA to use speed humps.
And then Chief, those just need to be, narrower than your vehicles, right? So you can drive over them.
Yeah,
right?
there's actually an area that we can drive through.
Okay.
For some tires, I believe, what's the street? Ford. I believe Ford has one on there now. I think that was a street that we did as our model street. I believe that has one.
Okay, well, thank you for clarifying. Thank you. That's all I have, Mayor.
And I can get you information on the speed humps if you wish and send it to you.
Send it to me.
Yes, ma'am, or so you can talk to your,
Oh, so I can explain. Yeah, thank you, Chief.
no problem.
That would be great. And our next meeting for North Hills is the third Saturday of the month at 10 via Zoom. Thank you.
Okay, I can even show up if you wish.
That would be great, Chief. Thank
Okay,
you.
no problem.
Is there anything else, Councilwoman Noah?
No, ma'am, that's it. Thank you, everyone.
Councilwoman Griffin? I'm concerned about her.
Yes, I am too. We're praying
I'm
for
very
her.
concerned about her. Chief,
Mayor, I sent her a text too. I haven't heard a word.
Chief, Eric, would you allow the chief to send someone over?
Yeah, I believe there's someone already going out over to do a welfare check.
Okay, because that's not like her.
And I called 4 times, so.
It is, just going through what Cora experienced, so, Councilwoman
Burrow.
Robinette, please.
I think it's Councilwoman Burrow's turn.
Okay, Councilwoman Burrow.
Thank you so much. I want to just say, I met with the new HR director and welcomed her in. And she was fast at work, had papers everywhere. So I said, busy bee already. So I welcome her. I'd like to say a hearty farewell to Bailey Mitchell and a thank you for a job well done. I am reminded of a song from yesteryear, and it was a song, and it says, "Were you there when they crucified my Lord?" I was reminded that of that song because that's what happened in Jesus's time, coming up on Easter. And I do want to let you all know that we will be having the Easter sunrise service from the Ministerial Alliance at the park, as we have been doing for many, many years. So I invite you all out. But the reason why that song came up in my mind, it wasn't so much about the Ministerial Alliance and what we do every year at Easter time. It was about the hate letters that you normally would be seeing has been replaced. I'm sorry. We would normally see hate letters with the comments that now come up in public comment speaking at our council meetings. This type of behavior really has to stop. That's not what we hear. And if you have a vendetta or just some urge to want to demean somebody, this is not the platform. I don't suffer fools very well. I really don't suffer foolishness at all. And so it's getting to the point where I'm grateful to Mary Jones that on yesterday, she and I had a meeting, and we're trying to build bridges. And the two of us have vowed to do that. And you do that with camaraderie. And so we got together yesterday to talk about SOPs. And Ella, I hope you agree that this is a prime SOP, what we got going here. We have people that think that they can come and use this forum as a personal platform for political gain, or that has to stop. I've been seeing it, I've been talking about it, I've been telling you this is not the place for that. And so now it's gotten to the place that this meeting where you decide, oh, we're gonna come here and we're gonna have a conversation about directness of hate. This would be a hate letter. The comments that I've seen the last 5 or 6 meetings, it's gotta stop. If you're looking for me to have an apologetic session or something like that, it ain't gonna happen. I don't apologize for being me. I am who I am because of the way God has wired me. And I will say this, citizens of this town twice have said in an abundant way that I am their choice. When I am in a meeting and I am there for my constituents, for the council, I am going to do what I'm there to do. And as far as any type of behavior is concerned from those, you don't, I hear a lot of times, there's no respect. You don't get respect because you got a title. You get respect because it's earned. And if you feel disrespected, you don't need Stevie Wonder or Michael Jackson to take a look in the mirror. Maybe there's a reason for that. And I'm going to tell you now, when Ellen and I are looking into the calendars to see when we can bring a working session to the council, one of the first things I'm going to talk about is we don't bring personal hate messages to political positions in this city. We don't do Facebook and we don't do any other media to handle city business. It's got to stop, folks. So if you've got something that you want to tell somebody, don't bring it here to air out your dirty laundry. We take care of city business here. Lives are at stake. And I'm grateful to the council members that we don't get involved in this. But if I'm wrong and you're letting this go on behind the scenes, then we need to clean up that act as well. So I pray that Fran is okay. And thank you, ma'am. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Burrow. Councilwoman Robinette.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll keep it short and sweet tonight. First of all, happy spring to everyone. And with new beginnings in the year and in the gardens, I'd like to encourage people now that things are opening up a little more to think about where you'd like to put time in to make a difference in your community. Please step up, please volunteer. We have boards and commissions that need filled. There are ample opportunities around the community, whether that's with the schools or churches or anything. Just get involved, meet new people, take a class even, meet new people. I mean, I think we're ready to be around people again, and I would hope that everybody can bring their talents to the table and continue to make a difference where they are with what they have. Just a reminder, April 5th is election day. I hope that everybody gets out and exercises your right to vote. And I appreciate the the League of Women Voters and the Ferguson Library for hosting the candidate forum. And just a reminder that the school board candidate forum will be via Zoom. The library has that posted as well tomorrow evening. So with that, I'll end my comments. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilwoman Lipka.
You had to think about it for a minute, right, Mayor? So I just wanted to, first of all, I'm just off the top of my head, I want to say thank you to Councilwoman Noah. Her determination to fill these boards and commissions is like a bulldog. She is really doing a hard work and good job. So Councilwoman Noah, quite impressive. Also wanted to reiterate what Councilwoman Robinette said. You know, April 5th is election day. Please get out and vote. Unfortunately, Ferguson is notorious for not having a lot of voters. And, you know, you got to express yourself. You've got to get out and vote. So please get out and vote. Vote for the person you feel is best for the job, and then support them in that job. So that's what I have to say about that. And I am running for Ward 1, and I would be very honored to do another 3 years for this community. Also want to say a big thank you to Bailey for the hard work he's put in and getting the property restoration program off the floor and getting the adjacent lot program moving forward. You've done great work, Bailey, and we are going to miss you. And I hope you have a phenomenal future, and feel free to check in with us and see how we're doing. So I hope you do. I do want to thank the community for the last 6 years of being able to represent Ward 1, and look forward to another 3 years, hopefully. But I also want to say thank you to this council, because no matter what happens, I want to let you know I've enjoyed working with you, and I enjoy the possibility of continuing to work with you. That being said, I want to end on this note. I didn't have the direct honor of knowing her as closely as many people have. So I hate it when people act like they know somebody really, really well in their passing. That is so phony. What I will tell you is, the few times that I did get to sit down and have a face-to-face, honest conversation, just Cora Faith Walker and myself, I was very honored. I was very impressed. This woman had a light inside of her that just shined so bright. I didn't have to know her to truly appreciate her. I didn't have to know her as well as Ella may know her, or Rachel Prouty. She's one of Rachel Prouty's dearest friends. She was one of Tiara Jones's dearest friends. I didn't have to know her that well to know she was very special. I thank her, you know, when I first started running for council, I was scared to death. And Cora sat down with me and she talked with me, and she, you know, when she found out I went to Stevens College and we both have a love for women's rights and women's abilities and politics and so forth, we just really, really hit it off. And we had a lot in common and in those regards. And so the news of her passing, it just stopped me in my tracks. I just started crying, and my mom's like, "Do you know her?" I'm like, "I had the honor of knowing her." So I just want to say thank you, Cora, for what you've given this community, what you've given the people you've worked with, what you've given people you didn't even meet because of your advocacy. So I hope we can all live a life that we can have that kind of impact. So thank you very much, Mayor. I'm done.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilwoman Phaedra Nelson.
I don't have much tonight, Mayor Jones. I just want to encourage people to make sure they vote on April 5th. Do your homework and vote your conscience. That's all I have for you.
Thank you. City Clerk Pittman.
Actually, Mayor, yes, I do. I do have comments. I do have one correction, and that is to Councilwoman Noah. While I appreciate it, I was actually sworn in as president last March. My official term as the president of the MOCCFOA was May 1st, and I am still president today. It does not end until April 30th. But I was going to say something today, though, because I do appreciate the council's support in letting me be a member and a dedicated member also of the MOCCFOA, because it does take a lot of time away. But I was able to serve my second conference, or the first full conference, our full educational conference this past week as the president. It was an amazing experience. Like I said, it was an entire year, and I hate for it to end so fast, but it was an amazing experience, and it was, no light feat. It did take a lot of dedication. It did take a lot of time away. And again, I appreciate all of you guys on the council, staff, and I've also had some support from some of our residents, those that were aware. So, but that's all I wanted to, I just wanted to thank you guys.
Octavia, there's only one queen bee.
Yes. And I will add that I overdid it with the queen bee as the theme. So I'm not sure if some of you have seen, but we did have a costume contest. And of course, being the queen bee this year, what could you imagine I have gone as? But I did win first prize as the queen bee. So, but again, thank you guys.
Linda, she was dressed in yellow again.
Yeah, I was dressed up in yellow and as a bee, so I'll have to send you guys the picture.
Good job.
Yes. City manager.
Yeah, I'll just join in the chorus of saying thank you, Bailey, for your hard work. We're really sad to see you go. And if you come back, let us know.
Thank you all.
Would you like to share, Bailey?
Bailey.
Yeah, sure. So, I've been with the city for a little over 2 years now, and I really appreciate, the opportunity that the city's given me, and I have had a great time, through the ups and downs of serving the community, and I truly appreciate everything that you all have given me. And I am actually already out in Connecticut now. So my last day will be April 1st with the city of Ferguson, and I'm moving in my next role. I will be the community development or the planning and community development director in the city or the town of East Longmeadow, Massachusetts. So.
Whoa.
Oh, well, congratulations.
So is it an April Fool's Day joke that you're leaving on the 1st?
No, it's just bad timing, I guess.
I do need to talk to you about FSBD benches before you go.
Okay. Attorney Carey.
Congratulations, Bailey. It's been a pleasure, my friend. Good luck. That's it.
Thank you.
Okay. Octavia, is this correct? The next time we meet will be April the 19th, the 3rd Tuesday?
That is correct.
Okay. So the next time we will meet as a council will be April the 19th, the 3rd Tuesday. Hopefully the HVAC will be working. Linda and I have been talking about this. People have been calling us. So hopefully by the second week in April, I will get with the city manager and we could send out a letter or email to the council and let them know if we be back in the chambers or we will be over at the community center. I just want to say the family of Cora Faith Walker was very appreciative of all the acts of kindness that the city of Ferguson shown to them during the passing of their daughter. I met Cora when she first moved to Ferguson and she wanted to go around the 74th district, and Cora and her husband and Chief Moss and I, we walked the 74th district. We sat on platforms together for the National Women's Political Caucus, and she is going to be missed. She's really, really going to be missed. And when she became the chief policy director for Executive Sam Page, she made certain that Ferguson knew all the information firsthand. She would call and let me know what's going on. So she's going to be missed. She was a great advocate person for our community. April the 5th is the election. I hope everyone get out and vote. But more importantly, when we come back after the election, we will be willing to work with each other so all of us can work together to move Ferguson forward. This is our home, and if we don't take care of it, no one else will. So on that note, I'm requesting.
Mayor, before you end, I want to take a minute. I forgot to thank you. Mayor, those who are listening, Mayor Jones wrote a very beautiful letter to Cora Faith Walker's family. It was not the one we heard earlier. This was actually written from the heart, and it was beautiful. And she did it on behalf of the whole council. And I wanted to thank you for that because I thought it was exceptionally written.
Thank you. It was on behalf of the council, the staff, and the citizens of Ferguson, because she lived in Ward 2.
Yeah.
She lived in Ward 1.
No, she lives in Ward 2. She lives in Ward 2.
Well, I get it's right across the street from 1. I can kind of call it 1.
Yeah, and her mom is on the library board as well. So we sent something too. But I really do. I want to piggyback off of that. I really appreciate, Ella, that we sent her something special.
We did.
And it wasn't political. I don't never want to know how that mother feels, but I'm getting emotional about it. But I appreciate you sending that note.
Yeah, I went to visit her parents and Tim, and it's just hard for all of us. We love to dear. Chief Hampton, would you please share, because you did something super special.
No, Mayor, we just got an update on Fran. I believe she's gonna be jumping on here in a second.
Okay.
Okay.
Come on, Chief, you're still trying to wiggle out of it.
We did nothing special.
You know what? I don't care what anybody say about how we disagree. But when it's time for the city of Ferguson to come together and show love for their residents, it's over and beyond. The family didn't have to ask us to do anything. We just knew how to step in. The police department, the chief, the fire chief, we just knew what to do for that family. And they were very appreciative of everything we did for the family. And, you know, when you love someone and they are a part of you, you just don't look for anything else to do but pour out your affection for that family. And so they were appreciative of everything we did, from the fire department to the police department, from the citizens to the staff to the council. So.
And I would also add to that, Mayor, that, you know, when you lose a child, it doesn't end with just once the funeral is over. It's something that you need, you know, the community, don't be afraid to say her name to her mother and father. Share, talk with it, talk about memories, talk about things that made you smile about her. If there's tears rolling down her mom's face or her dad's face, they're not tears of pain, they're tears of joy that you're sharing your memories with those people, because they need to hear their child's name come out of other people's mouths for the rest of their lives. So don't be afraid to talk about their daughter with them.
And Ella, I just want to let you know too that at the library, I checked yesterday evening, and the citizens are still coming into the library signing cards. And so we have not forgotten her family, and so the cards will be there. Was anybody want to come, and we'll be sending those cards out to the family from the library.
Yes. We are a family. If you know, we are a family. We are a family. And sometimes families get along and sometimes they doesn't. But when we need each other, we are there for each other. And that is a big blessing. That is a big blessing. So is Fran Griffin back on the line? I mean, back on Zoom?
Yes, ma'am, I'm here.
You okay?
You all right? Fran, you're trying to give us all a heart attack.
No,
We sent the police over there.
Yeah, I mean.
You okay?
Glad to hear your voice. That's all. Just glad to hear your voice.
Ooh, yeah, yeah, you're part of the family, girl. So, on that note, you okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, we don't have to, okay, you know, we'll come and babysit you. You know, that's no problem. That's no problem.
I'll get out my licking stick.
No problem. On that note, I'm requesting a motion in a second to adjourn.
So moved, Mayor Linda Lipka.
Tony Barrow, second.
It has been properly moved and second that we adjourn. Are you ready to vote? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it. Meeting in. We'll see you April the 19th.
Good evening,
Thank
everybody.
you, Mayor. Loving that cowboy hat.
Good night.
Thank you, everyone. Good night.